The Alpha's hated fate. A scream tore across the dreamscape, high, ragged, abruptly cut off. The sound hurled Zayn awake. He shot upright in his enormous bed, lungs dragging for breath that refused to soothe. For a heartbeat, he thought he still lay amid the ashes of that night. Rogue howls, the ragged churn of fire, the moment his first mate's pulse stopped beneath his hands. But dawn seeped pale through his windows, cool and quiet, and the only smell was the faint smoke from last night's hearth. He ground his teeth, willing the memory back where it belonged. "Forget," his wolf ordered, voice rough in his mind. "It's over." "It's never over," Zayn muttered aloud. The words tasted of iron. He shoved back the covers and rose, muscles stiff from nightly battles he could not win. The stone floor chilled his bare feet, a welcome bite of reality. He pulled on black trousers and a dark shirt, nothing ornate. He hadn't cared for ornament since the day the moon goddess ripped joy from him. Outside, the air atop the keep's tallest balcony cut knife clean across his face. Forest stretched below, dark pines trembling beneath a pale sky. He braced both hands on the rail. Cold iron steadied him better than any whispered prayer. He would not pray, not after everything. His wolf paced just under his skin, claws scraping invisible stone. "We need to run." No. His lips barely moved. Running meant release. Release invited feeling. Feeling meant hurt. He stared until the world blurred, until the weight in his chest settled into familiar numbness. Boots sounded behind him. Beta Callan stopped 2 paces back, head bowed in respect, though the man had been Zayn's friend since childhood. "You didn't sleep," Callan said softly. Zayn answered with a shrug. "The summit of allied packs begins at noon," Callan reminded him. "Your absence will be noticed." "Let them notice." Zayn rubbed the scar bisecting his brow. His nightmares felt branded there, visible to anyone who dared look. Callan's tone hardened, still respectful. "We need the alliance, Alpha. Rogue numbers rise near our borders again." A pause. "Your father would have gone." A storm flickered through Zayn at the mention of the man who'd raised him to be iron. "My father kept his mate," he said. "Spare me the comparison." Callan exhaled but didn't retreat. "Hiding here will not change what happened." Zayn pivoted, eyes ice-bright. "Nothing changes what happened. But fine. If sitting among posturing leaders for an afternoon keeps rogues off my land, I'll endure it." His wolf growled approval, wariness but approval. Callan nodded once. "I'll have the car ready within the hour." Zayn walked away without another word, shutting the balcony doors so hard the glass rattled. The ache behind his breastbone throbbed in time with his heartbeat. Still, he dressed meticulously. Charcoal jacket, black boots polished to a lethal shine. Armor against memories. Across the valley, Avaline braided trembling fingers through honey-blonde hair she'd brushed 3 times already. Her healer's quarters smelled of dried lavender and calendula, the tools of comfort she offered others but could rarely afford herself. She straightened the pale green dress laid out on her bed, smoothing invisible wrinkles. Her wolf stirred uneasily. "Something feels wrong." "I know," she whispered, glancing toward the small mirror above her wash basin. Green eyes stared back, too bright with worry. "It's only a summit. We've attended before. But never one hosted so close to the infamous Midnight Keep." She swallowed. A brisk knock preceded her uncle's entrance. Gamma Harrow filled the doorway, his presence a perpetual storm cloud. "You're not ready," he snapped, though she plainly was. "Quit dawdling." "I'm coming," she said, reaching for her healer's satchel. The leather felt heavier than usual. He eyed her critically. "Remember why you're there. Patch up cuts, offer poultices, and keep that timid mouth shut." His gaze flicked to her birthmark, hidden beneath the dress's neckline. "No foolishness." She wanted to retort that healing was never foolishness, but her heart crumpled beneath his scorn. "Be silent," her wolf advised. protective in the only way she knew. Aveline pressed lips together and followed him through narrow halls to the courtyard, where carriages waited in dull morning light. Alpha Rowan of the Willowglen pack stood near the lead carriage, tall and composed in hunter green. He offered Avaline a polite nod. "You look well, healer." "Thank you, Alpha," she answered, voice barely above wind. Harrow ushered her inside before she could draw another calming breath. The bench opposite her uncle smelled of leather and cedar. As wheels started rolling over gravel, she tucked cold hands beneath thighs, wishing they'd stop shaking. Her wolf tried again to soothe her. Perhaps this gathering will pass quickly. She concentrated on that fragile hope. 2 hours later, carriages lined the semicircle courtyard of High Pine Hall, neutral territory chosen for its large council chamber and the map room where packs could chart rogue incursions. Guards from multiple clans stood sentinel, their varied sigils fluttering. Inside, Zayn strode through the grand entry like a storm given flesh. Conversation dwindled to uneasy hush. Alphas greeted him with tight nods. Few dared more. He returned none. Callan kept a half-step behind, scanning for threats the way a shadow watches light. Zayn's wolf lifted its nose at the mingled scents. Oak from the Greenwood Alpha, sea salt from the coastal Seaborn pack, yet dismissed them all. Only scent that mattered was the phantom absence ever aching inside. The lily and rain that had belonged to his lost mate. He pushed aside the thought. In a side alcove, Avaline hurried to arrange ceramic cups of tea on a tray. The fine china rattled faintly against silver. She bit her lip, hating the tremor. Her uncle hovered behind, ensuring she remained invisible even as she served. Zayn's boot struck marble a dozen strides away when his world tilted. Scent, wildflower honey entwined with new leaf green, speared straight to his lungs. Lightning cracked beneath skin. He froze mid-step. His wolf lunged forward, roaring victoriously. "Mate." No. Zayn's chest constricted, rage scorched through veins. Not again. Not after fate had taken everything. He snapped his spine straight, refusing to turn, but the bond's pull yanked his gaze left. She stood beside a long table, fingers curled around a teapot handle, eyes wide and impossibly green, frail, frightened, alive. His wolf surged. "Ours, go to her." "Shut up," he hissed under his breath. But his feet moved before thought. The chamber seemed to narrow until it contained only 2 beats. His thunderous pulse and the soft hitch of hers. Avaline's vision blurred around the edges. The man approaching radiated power, darkness in crisp black clothing. His eyes, blue like winter midnight, fixed on her as though finding prey. The tray in her hands wobbled, and her wolf whimpered. "He is the one." "I don't want this," Avaline begged internally, panic stealing breath. Not him. Anyone but him. Zayn stopped so close she smelled cold mountain air on him. Her Alpha stepped forward, half bowing. "Alpha Zayn, an honor." Silence. Zayn didn't look away from her. The mate bond snapped fully into place, an iron chain between hearts. Fury almost choked him. How dared the moon goddess bind him again to this small, trembling healer? Callan hovered, eyes wary. "Alpha." Zayn's voice cut like glass. "She is mine." 4 words. Absolute. He reached out, fingers closing around Avaline's wrist, firm enough to bruise. Gasps rippled behind them. Avaline's knees buckled. Hot sparks spread from his grip, racing up her arm. Tears pricked. She kept them from falling. Words lodged in her throat. Her Alpha cleared his voice. "Perhaps we should—" "Now," Zayn ordered. "Prepare whatever documents you require. She leaves with me today." The tray clattered as Avaline's other hand lost its purpose. Callan caught it deftly before porcelain shattered. The healer swallowed a sob. Zayn's wolf pressed against his ribs, elated yet bristling at her fear. "Ease your grip. She is delicate." Zayn squeezed harder out of spite. "She will live." He turned on his heel, dragging her a step before stopping. "Release the tray," he told her coldly, as though she were incompetent, not terrified. She obeyed, and Callan set it safely aside. Avaline's uncle glowered at her, resentment mingling with triumph. She could read it in his eyes. This was a blessing for their mediocre bloodline. She swayed, dizzy. Zayn marched her toward a side corridor. Every gaze in the chamber clung to them. Curiosity, envy, pity. He cared for none. Behind him, the other alphas resumed low conversation, but tension hung thick as smoke. Halfway down the hall, Avaline found her voice, small, shaking. "Please, don't." He didn't pause. "Speak louder." "Please." She tried again, throat raw. "Let me say goodbye to my family." "No." His tone left no seam for argument. Her wolf pressed gentle thoughts. "Breathe. Live. We will endure." She drew one ragged breath, then another, but the corridor seemed to stretch like nightmare. Beta Callan followed at a distance, jaw tight. He met Zayn outside the chamber doors. "We must finalize summit agreements," he said carefully, "and her alpha will expect a formal pledge." Zayn's grip flexed as though he only now remembered protocol existed. "Fine. Give them my oath of truce against rogues. Mention her transfer is chosen by me, sanctioned by the goddess, beyond negotiation." Callan's gaze flicked to Avaline's ashen face. "Shall I arrange a private room for her comfort?" "No," Zayn answered, then relented a fraction. "Take her to the waiting lounge. I will return shortly." He released her wrist abruptly, as if discarding a needless tool. Callan guided her away without touching, mindful of the tension. Zayn strode back toward the council room, pulse pounding like war drums. His wolf snarled, "You treat her like carrion." "She is a chain," Zayn muttered. "Fate's last joke." "She is salvation, right?" "Shut up." The wolf retreated with a wounded growl, but its heartbeat throbbed against Zayn's, refusing silence. Inside the lounge, Avaline collapsed onto a velvet bench, lungs fluttering wildly. Callan poured water from a crystal decanter, setting the glass within reach. "Breathe," he said, voice gentle despite steel-gray eyes. She lifted shaking hands but couldn't steady them long enough to drink. "I am sorry for his manner," Callan added after a moment. "He has suffered." He offered no details. None could mend this moment. Avaline finally sipped. Cool water slid down a throat scraped raw with panic. "He doesn't want me," she whispered. Callan's expression tightened. "He wants nothing fate forces on him. Yet what fate demands he never refuses." He met her gaze squarely. "Steel yourself, healer." She stared into the glass, vision wavering. Her wolf curled around her heart, murmuring, "We will not shatter. Not today." Avaline wished she believed it. Outside in the corridor that stank of polished stone and old politics, Zayn braced one hand against the wall. He closed his eyes, drawing breath deep enough to crack ribs. The imprint of her wrist lingered on his palm, a warmth that contradicted every icy vow he'd ever made. His wolf whispered softer now, wounded, "She needs kindness." "No," Zayn hissed. "She needs distance. From me. From this curse." He pushed off the wall and strode back into the council chamber, voice smooth and lethal as a sheathed blade. Politics awaited, but his mind burned with the scent of wildflowers and fear. The council chamber swallowed sound, then fed it back like something half-digested. Alphas took their places at the oval table, maps unfurled along the center beneath a brass chandelier that clicked when the drafts moved. Zayn didn't sit. He stood at the head as if built into the stone itself, hands behind his back, eyes remote. "Shall we begin?" the Seaborn Alpha ventured, eyes flicking toward the doors where whispers about the mate claim were still floating. "Rogue activity along our coast has—" "Our borders come first," Zayn said. "Discuss your coast after we secure the mountain passes. Without those passes, the rogues will pour everywhere, Murmurs. Some bristled, others nodded. Alpha Rowan of Willowglen watched Zayn with a patience that looked like courtesy until you noticed the steel under it. He folded long fingers together. The mountain passes then. We can commit patrols against the eastern ridge and share scouts as discussed last season. Make it binding, Zayn said, written before we adjourn. The Seaborn Alpha's mouth tightened. You could at least sit, Zayn. Zayn tilted his head. I will stand. It wasn't a threat. It didn't need to be. Callan at his shoulder moved with quiet competence, passing maps, noting positions, confirming shifts. He fielded 2 questions meant for Zayn without being told, answering with a calm that took the heat out of the room. They hammered out terms quickly. No one wanted to linger under Zayn's glacial stare. When it ended, the leaders filed out in clusters to murmur about trade or pride or whatever filled their hours when they weren't hunting monsters in the dark. Callan waited until the chamber had emptied. Transfers, he murmured, as if the word were ordinary. Shall I handle the pledge with Willowglen? I said as much. Zayn's tone brooked no delay. Callan hesitated a fraction. And the girl? A muscle jumped in Zayn's jaw. She will be where I left her. His wolf snapped. She is not a parcel. Zayn's response burned low. She is exactly that now. The goddess wrapped her up and shoved her at me. We will return her when it suits us. At the end of our lives. The wolf's fury shredded against him, then slunk back, panting. Callan made no comment. He never did when Zayn's gaze went far and savage like that. He only bowed his head and slipped out to find the Willowglen Alpha. Zayn remained alone in the echoing chamber, staring at the blood-red markings his enemies had traced on the map. They looked like claw marks. He pressed 2 fingers to his brow, to that stubborn scar. He had not wanted a second bond. He had not asked for one. The moon had not cared. His feet moved before he'd chosen a direction. He left the chamber and cut down the corridor to the lounge. A pair of attendants hovered near the door. They straightened fast. Zayn ignored them and went inside. Avaline sat with her back very straight as if the bench might punish slouching. Her hands were folded in her lap, knuckles white. Harrow stood sentry in the corner, arms crossed and face sour. Rowan occupied a chair beside the window, the kind of posture that looked restful but was, Zayn knew, ready to spring. Avaline looked up when Zayn entered. Whatever the bond did inside her eyes when she saw him, it sharpened grief like glass. He hated the way it felt. He hated the way his own body cataloged tiny details even as his mind recoiled. How her breath caught, how her throat moved when she swallowed fear. Rowan rose. Alpha Zayn. Rowan. Zayn didn't bother with pleasantries. We have a pact. Put it on paper. Callan will sign in my stead. Rowan's mouth flicked, gone before it became a smile. Not staying to affix your own seal? I have other business. Rowan's gaze slid to Avaline, and in that silence the air grew taut as bowstring. Avaline clutched her satchel closer without realizing it, like a child hugging a shield made of leather and herbs. Family time, Harrow said, waving a dismissive hand at the words as if they were smoke. He turned to Zayn and dipped his head. We're honored, Alpha, truly. She'll serve you well. She will serve as I decide, Zayn cut in, bored and deadly at once. He didn't look at Harrow again. He looked at Avaline. Come. A shade of color fled her face. Her wolf pressed a palm of comfort against the inside of her ribs, beating there like a second heart. Breathe. Ask again. Ask for a goodbye. Please, she said, making the word steady by force. Just a moment. With my Alpha. With my family. No. She stared at him for a beat. Something in her eyes steadied. I am not a bag of grain to be hauled on command. Harrow hissed, mind yourself. Zayn didn't change expression. You are what fate made you. Mine. You will walk or I will carry you. Choose. Rowan's voice entered then, low and measured. Zayn. The name hung between them. When Zayn looked, Rowan held his gaze evenly. We all serve the same moon. Willowglen gives its members to bonds without argument, but we are not livestock. Give her 1 minute. Zayn could have said no and meant it. He wanted to. The second he allowed softness, the second anything human tripped into this path, he feared he would feel again. His wolf didn't hesitate. 1 minute. Zayn's mouth flattened. 60 seconds. He bit out. Callan is outside with the documents. We depart when I am done signing. Rowan nodded once, then turned to Avaline. Walk with me. His tone included Harrow, whether he liked it or not. They moved to the far side of the lounge. Harrow stayed closer than a shadow. Zayn tracked Avaline without appearing to. The bond made it effortless. He could have found her blindfolded in a storm. Aveline faced her alpha with a chest full of stones. Please, she whispered, I don't want this. Rowan's eyes softened, not with pity but with something sadder. Many do not, he said. It still comes. I am a healer, my place is here, my work is here. Your work will be wherever you stand, he said. You will save as many lives under his roof as you have under mine. Not if he won't let me, she said, anger flaring at the edges of fear. Not if he locks me in a room and throws away the key. Rowan's jaw twitched. Zayn does not cage healers, he cages danger. Harrow cut in, contempt dripping. This is what I have told you, enough dramatics. You'll be Luna. Aveline flinched. He doesn't want a Luna. He wants a message for the moon. He wants to hurt her with me. Harrow's mouth curled. Be grateful anyone wants you. Rowan shot Harrow a look sharp as a blade. Then he returned to Avaline and pitched his voice low. Listen to me. You are not going to a gentle home, and I won't pretend you are, but you are not weak. I have watched you work until your fingers bled, and then wake to work again. If anyone can stand in a place that cold and survive, it's you. Survive is not the same as live, she said. Her wolf made a soft noise, then nudged. Ask again. Ask to stay a week. Ask for something small. Please, Aveline said. A day. I'll go tomorrow. Just let me have tonight with my mother. Her voice nearly broke on the word. Let me explain. Harrow snorted. What's to explain? You're moving up in the world. Rowan's eyes shuddered. The bond has already set, he said. If I hold you past nightfall, his men will take you by force. That would be worse. Worse, she repeated, hollow. Then she squared her shoulders, some slim, stubborn thing rising. Then stay with me while I tell my mother. Stand beside me so she knows I was not stolen like a thing. Let her see it is law. It is law, Harrow said. It doesn't need ceremony. Rowan silenced him with a small shake of the head. You have 30 seconds, he said. I will send a runner to fetch her to the courtyard. He glanced over his shoulder. Zayn is counting. Zayn was, in fact, counting. He watched the window glass and his reflection inside it, his own stare a stranger's. His wolf paced in tight circles. We are making this worse. She will leave either way, Zayn said. Better to cut clean. You are tearing, you are not cutting. The door opened near his elbow. Callan slipped back in with a sheaf of heavy paper and a pen that shone like a sliver of moon. Alpha Rowan signed, he reported, and the Seaborn Alpha amended the patrol language. I made the adjustment. Zayn took the pen and signed his full name with the tidy hand his father had drilled into him. He handed the pen back as Aveline and Rowan returned from the window. Harrow looked smug, which made Zayn want to break something. We're done here, Zayn said. He headed for the door. Wait, Aveline blurted. He didn't. She caught up in the doorway, breath almost a sob. If I'm leaving now, let me take my things. I need my herbs, the ones I prepared for Mrs. Althea's joints. No one else knows the ratio. And my... She stopped, the word too soft to survive. And my mother's scarf. Zayn's eyes flicked to Callan. Callan touched 2 fingers to his brow. I'll see it done. List what you need. I'll send someone. Avaline rattled off precise quantities with the steady cadence of the one place she was never unsure. 2 jars of comfrey, 1 of arnica, the willow bark tied with blue twine, the pestle with the hairline crack, the scarf in the drawer, the silver thimble she used to mend. Her voice steadied as she listed the tools of comfort, as if they could comfort her too. Callan memorized every item without writing a word. You'll have them before nightfall, he promised. I swear it. Zayn's mouth twitched into something that might have been approval if you squinted through a blizzard. Now, he said to Avaline, walk. The corridor stretched long. People pretended not to stare and failed. Avaline held her chin level because if it dropped, the tears would too. Rowan walked beside her without touching. Harrow stalked behind, a self-appointed guard dog. At the outer doors, daylight slapped brighter. The courtyard glared with white stone and dark carriages, with horses stamping and men calling to one another. The air smelled of iron and pine sap, and the fresh bread someone was carrying to the kitchens. A woman rushed across the stones, apron still flour-dusted, Avaline's mother, Alia. She barely remembered giving the runner her location. Rowan must have sent him flying. Ave? Alia exclaimed, catching her daughter's face in both hands. What is this? What have they told you? Avaline's throat closed. She reached for words but found only a shiver. Rowan spoke in the space where she could not. The bond fell today. Ilia's eyes darted, confused. What bond? To who? Then she saw Zayn, and went still in a way that made every line of her body look older. No. Avaline had to say it herself. Yes. Ilia paled, then rallied in the helpless way of mothers whose children are taken by rules they never wrote. She brought Avaline's hands to her lips, kissed cold knuckles. Then you will go with pride, she said, voice trembling only at the end. You will carry your light wherever you are. Harrow scoffed. Light, she's not a candle. She is mine, Ilia said, all tremor gone, eyes bright as knives. Harrow shut his mouth. The brief fire cooled as fast as it had flared. Ilia turned to Zayn with the barest bow she could manage, and still call it respect. Please take care of her. Zayn's face did not move. I take care of my pack. She will be part of it, Ilia said, a plea hidden inside a statement. Zayn's wolf lunged toward the sound of her fear, toward the shape of Avaline curled in it. Zayn crushed it back. That is not your concern. Ilia's mouth pressed thin. She turned to her daughter as if the rest of the courtyard had evaporated. You know how to reach me, she whispered. No matter whose roof covers you, you know. Avaline cut a look at Zayn, then back to her mother. I do. Ilia cupped her cheeks again, memorizing the face she'd made with love and luck and grain caught under nails. Eat, she said. Sleeping may not come easy, but eat. Do not do all the helping and forget to be helped. And if he raises a hand to you... Elia, Rowan warned gently. It was both caution and comfort. Zayn's jaw flexed. I don't need to raise a hand, he said. My word is enough. Avaline's wolf whispered coldly. He believes that. It wasn't a comfort. She nodded to her mother, because otherwise she couldn't leave at all. Callan returned then with a small bundle, a scarf, gray with flowers, smelling faintly of sunlight and home. Avaline's fingers clutched it like air. Your other items will meet us at the keep, Callan said. Thank you, she whispered, meaning it. Zayn turned toward the black car waiting at the foot of the steps. The vehicle looked like a predator sitting obediently. He opened the rear door and stood aside rather than offering a hand. Get in. Avaline glanced back. Ilia stood blinking hard, Rowan's hand on her shoulder, Harrow already calculating how this connection might benefit him. Avaline took one step, another. Her wolf padded with her. One more breath, then another. We will count, if we must. She climbed into the car. Zayn followed, the door closing with a heavy sound that felt like a vault being sealed. Callan took the front passenger seat. A driver she didn't know nodded into the mirror. The car rolled. Silence was a wall for the first full minute. Avaline stared at her scarf, twisting the edge between fingers until it dug harshly into skin. She wanted to look out the window and couldn't. She didn't want to see the place she'd leave. She didn't want to see Zayn's reflection in the glass either. Her wolf pressed a small suggestion. Mind link your mother. Tell her you are breathing. Tell her you will write. Avaline shut her eyes and reached inward. The familiar path opened, thin and silvery. Elia? She sent softly. Can you hear me? A pulse came back and cracked her heart. I hear you. I'm all right, Avaline lied. I'm in the car. I have your scarf. Elia's reply felt like hands around a candle flame. Keep it close. I'm here. I am always here. Avaline's throat burned with a grief that had nowhere to go. I love you. I love you, her mother sent, steady as bread and warm as a hearth. A subtle change in the air made Avaline open her eyes. Zayn was watching her, jaw hard. Stop, he said. She blinked. Stop what? Mind linking. It's my mother, she said, miserable without apology. You link me when you link anyone now, he said. You pull through me. Do you think I want a stranger's voice in my head? Avaline's face flamed with shame and fury. I didn't know. Now you do, he said. End it. Her wolf growled softly in her, not a sound any human ear could catch. He does not get to own that. Elia, Avaline sent quickly. I have to go. He can hear. I will send a letter. Her mother's sorrow threaded back bright and proud. You are mine even when you are his. Be safe. Avaline let the link fall away like a lifted curtain. She folded her hands tightly to keep them from shaking. I won't do it again without asking. You won't do it again until I say, Zayn corrected. He didn't look away. There will be rules. She laughed softly, a broken sound. Of course there will be. You will not leave your rooms without permission for the first week. You will not go near the eastern wing. You will not roam the forest alone. And I will not breathe without counting first, she muttered. If you need reminding, he said, it was not a joke. She stared at him, then out at the trees beginning to blur by. What happens if I disobey? Callan answered before Zayn could, voice even. Our alpha keeps his home controlled. People who break rules make it harder. He does not tolerate harder. That sounds like a threat, Avaline said. It is a warning, Callan said. His tone held neither cruelty nor comfort. Zayn's wolf shoved hard enough to bruise. She is terrified. We are making this a snare. Better a snare she sees than one she stumbles into. Zayn bit back. Callan, perhaps hearing the edges of that internal tension in the scrape of Zayn's breath, glanced in the mirror again. The items you requested will be in your rooms when we arrive, he told Avaline, trying to hand her a small anchor. I sent Rion to your quarters. He's fast. Thank you, she said again, because gratitude was a habit she wore like skin. She pressed the scarf to her nose. The smell of home hollowed her and filled her both. The car 8 miles. Pine gave way to higher fir. Road bent like a snake's spine. The afternoon thinned into a light you could lift between finger and thumb. Inside, the air took the shape of unsaid things. After a long period where the only sounds were engine and breath, Zayn said, You will have what you need to work. She startled. To heal? To occupy your hands, he said. I will not have someone underfoot with nothing to do. My pack will line up for yourselves and leave me alone. Avaline stared at him, the first ember of anger beating higher. People are not distractions to be counted up like sheep. His eyes slid to her, flat and pale as glacial ice. Everyone is something, he said. You at least can do that. It is more useful than being pretty. She flinched because her wolf had whispered almost that exact thing to comfort her earlier, only with gentleness rather than scorn. Her wolf rose now, hackles along the inside of her spine. He may hold the chain but not the key. We do not give him that. Avaline was too tired for speeches. I will work where I see need. I will not ask before I mend a child's cut or wrap a sprained wrist. You will tell me after, he said. Don't mistake my allowance for license. My home is not a market stall where anyone touches what they please. It is a place people live, she said, and living means needing. Zayn pressed his tongue to his teeth until it hurt enough to ground him. His wolf tossed a glare across the back of his skull. You keep talking to her like a problem, and she will become one because you made her. He ignored it. He was good at ignoring. They drove through a narrower pass where the road shouldered close to rock. Avaline's breath fogged a circle on the window. She rubbed it away with knuckles and left a smear. The forest beyond looked like a dark sea that had frozen mid-wave. Somewhere in that there was a keep built like a clenched fist. Her stomach sank. Tell me about your first mate, she said abruptly, the words out before she could stop the urge to understand the thing tearing her life apart. Callan stiffened a fraction. Zayn didn't visibly change. No. Did you love her? Enough, he said. Enough to bury the man I was with her. Silence had edges after that. Avaline picked at the scarf's trailing thread, worried it until it freed and coiled like a tiny snake. My condolences, she said finally, for the loss. It was not sarcasm, and it was not pity. It was a truth offered plain. Zayn's wolf leaned forward like a creature scenting water after days of heat. Zayn strangled it. Keep them, he said. I don't need your condolences. They are mine to give, she said. Keep them anyway. She let the thread go. You may not want me, she said, calm, starting to slide into her voice like a blade sliding into a sheath. But the bond exists. That means what I feel touches you whether you like it or not. I will like it not, he said, and the way he said it made Callan look out the window, as if the trees were suddenly very interesting. Avaline angled her face toward the glass. Her reflection ghosted, green eyes and pale hair and a mouth set in a line she hoped looked more like resolve than fear. Her wolf pressed a nose against her palm from the inside. We can survive him. We can survive this. We will not apologize for breathing. The car cut out of the pass and onto a plateau where the world spread wide. Far ahead, under the growing smear of evening, a bleak set of towers clawed at the sky. Avaline knew without asking that they belonged to him. Zayn felt her glance and felt a bitter satisfaction. Let her see. Let her understand. This is your home, she said. It is my territory, he corrected. Home is a word without meaning. Callan finally spoke into the static. The eastern wing is older than the rest, he told Avaline, as if giving her a map would matter when the ground itself was shifting. The kitchens will give you what you need if you ask for me by name. Thank you, she said again, meaning it more this time because he was throwing her the kind of rope that didn't look like one until you were drowning. Zayn pinched the bridge of his nose as if a headache had set in behind his eyes. His wolf breathed iron. You could make this easier by 1 inch. 1 inch, Zayn murmured, too low for either of the others to hear. He did not know if the words were agreement or mockery. The car hummed onward, every mile shaving a layer away from the life Avaline had built until the core showed, raw and small and stubbornly lit. Behind them, High Pine Hall shrank into stone and rumor. Before them, the midnight keep swelled with each turn of the road. The sky curled into cloud, the kind that didn't promise rain so much as an argument with it. Avaline's hands had stopped shaking. She didn't know if that meant she was braver or simply out of adrenaline. Her wolf huffed. Braver. She almost smiled at the lie. Then she remembered her mother's face in the courtyard and swallowed it. The last checkpoint before they left shared territory loomed. Men in dark coats and the midnight keep's crest straightened when they saw the vehicle approach. The driver lowered the window and gave a signal. The gate ratcheted up with a groan. Avaline's heart thudded once and then again in a rhythm that felt 2 steps out of sync with itself. She gripped the scarf and tried to think about herbs. about ratios, about counting breaths in and out and making something that eased someone else's hurt. She did not look at Zayn. She didn't have to. The bond made ignoring him a kind of attention anyway. Zayn angled his body the way he did when he rode into battle, a posture that protected heart and gut and left hands free. There would be no fight here, no steel, no blood. He preferred sword to silence, blade to bond. He preferred anything to the smell of wildflowers curling like an answer to a question he had already decided not to ask. They drove under the gate. The neutral lands fell away behind them like a story that had ended without resolution. The road narrowed, then widened, then bent toward a dark horizon that looked too much like promise and too much like threat to be either cleanly. No one spoke. The car kept time. Avaline watched the trees go by and learned the shapes of the branches as if numbers could save her. Callan tapped something inside his jacket that sent a flashing blue light on his phone screen, a silent message to someone at the keep about their arrival. Zayn closed his eyes for half a breath and saw fire again. And there it was, the quiet truth he dug out with his bare hands. He hated the moon, not because she had given him a second mate, but because she had made him remember he once wanted one. He opened his eyes and despised the softness in the thought enough to crush it into something he knew how to wield. He thought about rules instead. Night crept down from the peaks as the car climbed the final serpentine mile. Fir branches knitted overhead, their tips brushing the roof with soft thumps like warning knocks. Avaline pressed her palm against the glass, breath frosting a faint circle she wiped away before Zayn could see. The road flattened at last into a clearing, and there, stark against a bruised violet sky, rose the midnight keep, black stone, spiked turrets, and windows lit with the low amber of watchfires. The sight hollowed her chest. Her wolf curled tighter, uneasy yet watchful. "We will learn these halls," it murmured. "Even caverns have paths." Zayn's pulse beat a harsh counterpoint in his temples as they rolled beneath the portcullis. The iron teeth rattled into place behind them, sealing the world outside. His wolf tasted the air, pack, duty, the familiar metallic tang of his own grief, then bristled at the delicate honey wildflower note threading in beside it. "She is here," it growled, half awed, half accusing. Zayn ground it down. He needed control tonight more than ever. Guards snapped to attention in the courtyard, boots ringing on flagstones. Callan was first out, issuing brisk orders. Lanterns flared along the causeway. Stable hands jogged forward to lead the vehicle away once its passengers disembarked. Zayn opened the rear door. Cold air spilled in, carrying pine and smoke. He didn't offer a hand. He simply waited. Avaline gathered her skirt and stepped down, legs shaky from hours of stillness. The keep loomed above, windows like watchful eyes. Pack members lingered under archways, curiosity shining in torchlight. She heard a low ripple of whispers. "Our alpha found another mate. She's tiny. Healer blood from Willowglen." Poor thing. Heat flooded her cheeks. She clutched her mother's scarf so tightly the embroidered flowers cut into her fingers. Zayn advanced 2 paces, forcing the murmurs to snuff out. "Eyes forward," he snapped. Heads jerked away. Boots shuffled back. He cut the courtyard in half with his presence, motioning Callan. "Rooms ready?" "East guest wing," Callan confirmed. "Fire lit. Provisions stocked. Her supplies arrive within the hour." "See to it." A thin, gray-haired woman in a dark dress emerged, spine straight as a spear. "Alpha, the evening meal is waiting," she said. This had to be Mistress Vera, the formidable housekeeper Avaline had heard about in rumors passed between healers. The woman's gaze flicked to Avaline, softening by a fraction before hardening again under Zayn's frost. "Shall I direct the new—" She hesitated over a title that didn't yet exist. "Shall I direct the healer to the dining hall?" "No," Zayn said. "She eats later. Alone." He faced Avaline, voice pitched so low only she and Callan would hear. "First week, you keep to these walls. Second floor, east wing. If you cross into the western corridors without escort, my enforcers will turn you back. Or worse. Avaline wet her lips. I understand. It came out steadier than she felt. Her wolf huffed in guarded approval. Callan lifted a lantern. This way. He led her across the courtyard and under an arch of glowering gargoyles. Zayn watched, arms folded, until she vanished through the interior doors. Only then did he turn toward the central keep, boots echoing like verdicts on stone. Inside, corridors branched like arteries. Callan kept a respectful step ahead of Aveline, pointing out landmarks. A shuttered window where sunrise gilded the hall, a side door to the infirmary she would oversee once cleared, a narrow stair descending to the kitchens. Staff passed them, offering nods that carried more sympathy than she expected. They reached a tall door carved with moon phases. Callan opened it onto a modest suite, bedroom with a canopied bed draped in dark blue, an adjoining washroom, and a sitting alcove where a fire already crackled. Night pushed against the windows, but the hearth glow softened the stone walls. Food will arrive shortly, Callan said. I chose calming herbs for your tea. He set the lantern on a table and hesitated. This place is colder than most, healer, but not all here wish you harm. Thank you, she whispered, for the scarf and everything. He inclined his head. Rest. Tomorrow will be demanding. With that, he left, the door closing with a finality that echoed in her bones. Avaline stood frozen. The scarf slipped from her fingers onto the bed. She crossed to the hearth, holding her hands to the warmth as if it could reach the hollow inside. Shadows jittered along the walls. Her own outline and another, lupine, cast by the bond's restless energy. She closed her eyes. Mother, I'm breathing. I promise. Her wolf brushed comfort through her thoughts. We survived the first hour. We will survive the next. The words weren't enough, but they kept her upright. She unclasped her satchel, fingers moving by rote, checking jars, aligning vials, grounding herself in tasks she understood. When she lifted the lid of her wooden herb box, a faint pulse of silvery light flickered over the leaves, her budding power teasing the edges of awareness. She shut the lid quickly, heart hammering. Not yet. Not where eyes might be watching. A knock. She startled. A young maid stepped in with a tray, soup, bread, the promised tea. Before departing, the girl murmured, "Welcome, Luna," under her breath. Aveline managed a brittle smile. Luna. The word felt like armor, far too big for her shoulders. Alone again, she tasted the soup, rich with root vegetables and thyme, then pushed it away, appetite shriveled. She sipped the tea. It slid warm down a throat, raw from silence. For a moment, the fire, the rug's softness under her feet, and the steady tick of wind against glass almost convinced her she was safe. A crash jolted her head up. Somewhere down the corridor, a door slammed, followed by angry voices she couldn't parse. Her pulse spiked. She rose, locked her chamber door, then back to the bed and sat, gripping the scarf. Tears slipped. 2, 3, before she yanked them back. You will not break, she told her reflection in the dark window. You will bend. You will root. She lay down fully clothed, scarf clutched to her chest, and listened to the keep breathe. The groan of timbers, the hush of distant footsteps, the sigh of flames. Eventually, exhaustion dragged her toward sleep. But the last thought before dreams claimed her was a stark, ringing certainty. I have lost everything I knew. I will not lose myself. Across the keep, Zayn stood on a parapet, wind whipping his coat. Below, pines murmured secrets to the rising moon. His wolf pressed against ribs, yearning toward the faint heartbeat now pulsing within the walls. The mate's heartbeat, fragile yet defiant. You cannot hate her forever, the wolf warned. Watch me, Zayn answered, jaw set hard enough to ache. He looked at the silver disk climbing the sky and felt the bond stretch tight, a leash he had never asked for. The moon goddess will regret mocking me. The words tasted of iron and frost as he turned from the light and descended into his fortress, leaving the night to wonder which would break first, the healer's fear or the alpha's hatred. Avaline woke before dawn, heart pounding like she had been running through water. The dream scattered into fading shapes. Cool moonlight, a huge dark wolf standing in a clearing, its amber eyes steady on hers, warmth curling around them like blankets pulled from a hearth. She tried to hold the feeling, but it dissolved, leaving the cold stone of the midnight keep pressing against her spine. She lay still, listening. The room breathed in quiet clicks, embers settling in the hearth, wind needling somewhere through shutters, the distant clang of guards changing posts. Beneath it all, the faint pulse of the bond tugged in her chest, a thread pulling toward a center she wanted to cut. Her wolf stirred, sleepy, but alert. "We live," it murmured. "That is enough for now." Aveline sat up. Someone had placed a tray on the bedside table, a covered dish, a cup of lukewarm tea gone gray at the rim. She reached for the handle and found the door still locked from the outside. A heavy iron bolt sat snug in its clasp. Heat crawled up her neck. She was a guest, supposedly, a Luna in name, yet they'd caged her like an animal. She poured a sip of tea. It tasted of oversteeped leaves and a bitterness that had nothing to do with tannin. Hunger nipped, but she pushed the plate away. Eating felt like agreeing. Sunlight arrived thin and slanted, sliding between curtains and painting the rug in damp gold. Aveline rose and moved to the small table where her satchel and herb box rested. She opened the lid. Neat bundles of dried willow bark, comfrey and calendula lay exactly where she'd packed them, but a few sprigs of lavender had slipped free, scattering purple petals across the base. She brushed them together. A static tingle sparked under her fingertips. Soft, surprising. She rubbed thumb to forefinger. A faint glow answered, a pearly sheen that clung an instant then vanished. Her pulse skipped. She flattened both hands on the box lid, staring. Nothing. Just skin and wood. It was exhaustion, surely, or the morning light playing tricks, yet a seed of wonder rooted. Her wolf nudged it. "Something new wakes," it whispered, gentle as dew on moss. She closed the box quickly. Avaline's gaze lingered on the bundles and memory arrived uninvited. Her mother's cottage kitchen washed in late summer sun, herbs hanging from rafters like upside-down bouquets. She remembered plucking calendula petals into a clay bowl, while Elia murmured their uses: soothe inflammation, quiet fever, coax skin to knit. Back then she'd thought healing was a fragrant sort of housekeeping. Today it felt like rebellion, the only skill the keep couldn't strip from her. She inhaled the ghost of lavender, searching for peace, but the smell mingled with the harsher sense of smoke and old stone. Cold air seeped from the walls, prickling her skin. Suddenly the bond fluttered, an aftershock of last night's corridor confrontation. Zayn's presence pricked her senses like static, a flick of impatience echoing across a tether she hadn't consented to wear. "Stop noticing him," she begged herself. Yet her heartbeat synced to the faint throb she felt in the distance, two rhythms trying to find a single cadence. The effort to resist left her dizzy. She shook an empty jar, forcing herself to catalog supplies. Dandelion root, low. White willow, enough for 2 antipyretics. Yarrow, barely a pinch. Each observation built a small wall against panic. The ritual steadied her breathing until the room blurred and sharpened in a slow wave. Then the odd warmth pulsed through her hands again. She flattened her palms on the table, watching as a halo no brighter than moonshine flared beneath the skin. Her wolf murmured curiosity rather than fear. "This is ours, accept it." Avaline flexed her fingers, half expecting pain. The light faded, but a pleasant hum remained, as though life itself had stirred under her nails. She marveled and mourned at once. In Willowglen, such light would have been a cause for celebration. Here it might earn shackles. A sudden clang of distant iron doors reminded her where she stood. She packed the jars briskly, wiped stray petals into her apron pocket, and promised herself not to let the inner glow show again, at least not where unfriendly eyes might spy. A sharp knock slammed that fragile moment apart. The bolt scraped. The door swung in. Mistress Vera, more hawk than woman, stood silhouetted in the hall, gray hair bound in a braid so tight it looked like iron wire. "Up," Vera said. "The Alpha has ordered you to the infirmary. Dress plainly. No gowns to trip on." Avaline's nightdress and shawl were hardly gowns, but she swallowed any retort, nodding. Vera stepped aside, giving room, but not space. Avaline crossed to her valise, unrolled a modest skirt and blouse the color of wet sand, and changed under the older woman's unapologetic stare. When she tried to braid her hair, her fingers shook. She felt Vera's gaze notice, judge, dismiss as insignificant. They walked silent corridors smelling of cold stone and distant smoke. Torches guttered in iron brackets. Avaline's boots echoed softer than Vera's shoes, but still too loud for comfort. Two pack warriors crossed their path, speaking low until they caught sight of her. Their conversation died. Their eyes flicked over her like knives measuring cloth. One dipped his head, perhaps in respect, perhaps mockery. She couldn't tell. The other smirked. She reached through the bond half by accident and felt an aggravated thrum. Zayn awake somewhere, mood black as thunder. She jerked the connection shut before it carried her pulse away. Vera led her through a tall arch into the infirmary. High windows bled pale light across neat rows of cots, cabinets full of bandages, and a central table scrubbed so clean it smelled of lye. A young man, maybe 18, organized gauze bundles. He looked up, startled. "This is Jarek," Vera said. "Apprentice, you follow his assignments." Vera glanced at a ledger. Sprained wrist, cracked rib, fever watch. No critical cases. Aveline dipped her head. "I'll begin with inventory, if that's acceptable. Efficient is all that matters." Vera handed her a stack of linen to fold and left without further word. Jarek offered a tentative smile. "I've heard you can make pain tonic taste like peaches." She blinked. "Who told you that?" "Warrior from Willowglen sang praises last season." His smile faltered when she didn't return it. "Sorry, you probably miss home." She forced something like gratitude into her voice. "Thank you, Jarek. Show me where supplies are thin." They worked side by side. Under fluorescent lamps someone had rigged along rafters. Avaline sorted herbs into jars, labeled doses, measured salves. Jarek fetched water, asked questions about ratios. She answered quietly, too aware of the whispering staff who glanced through doorways. Prisoner. Luna. Alpha's plaything. She felt every thought scrape across her skin. A quarter hour after she and Jarek settled into routine, two warriors ducked through the doorway. The first led a limping boy, Tom, exactly as before. The second half carried a grizzled fighter whose beard was threaded with gray. "Training accident," the guard huffed. "Kid caught his wrist under a shield. Garrick here didn't duck fast enough, cracked rib." Garrick tried to wave him off, then winced, pressing a hand to his side. Avaline gestured to the inner cot. "Jarek, secure a band for Tom's wrist. I'll see Garrick." As the apprentice fetched splints, Avaline assessed the older warrior. Purple bruising spread beneath torn tunic. Each breath hitched shallow. "Deep breath if you can," she said. Garrick obeyed, grimacing. Beneath her fingertips, cartilage grated, an unmistakable fracture. "You'll be off the field a fortnight," she warned. "Alpha won't like that," Garrick muttered, sweat shining on his brow. "He'll like a punctured lung less. Hold still." She reached for a jar of arnica, but her palm tingled. Bright, yearning. She hesitated. No one was looking. Tom and Jarek busied themselves with bandages. Heart hammering, she slid her hand beneath Garrick's and pressed lightly. Warmth poured out steadier than with Tom. For a heartbeat, her vision filled with silver threads weaving bone, knitting cartilage, easing tissue back into place. Garrick gasped, the pain ebbing like tide. "What?" he began. She lifted a finger to her lips. "Herbal compress." She lied loud enough for listening ears. "Ice soon and no sparring." The warrior blinked, bewildered, but nodded. She stepped back, shaky. Her glove, she suddenly wished she wore one, felt too thin to hide the faint afterglow. "Garrick?" Tom piped from the next cot. "Does it still hurt?" "Like a kitten's bite," Garrick said, awe creeping into his grin. "Girls' hands are miracle soft." Avaline tucked hair behind her ear as heat climbed her cheeks. Jarek stared but said nothing, eyes wide. She motioned him near while Tom tested his wrapped wrist. In a whisper, she instructed which herbs soothed swelling, how many drops per dose. Jarek absorbed each detail, nodding like a sparrow. By the time Garrick's breath ran smooth and Tom flexed fingers without wincing, whispers had drifted down the hall. Healer's touch glows. Magic in her skin. Avaline's stomach sank. Not even midday, and secrets already slipped. Jarek stared, but before he could question more, footsteps pounded the corridor. A shiver ran the bond. Zayn's presence approaching like a storm front. He strode in, Beta Callan at his flank, both men coiled tight. Conversation died. Zayn's eyes locked on Avaline. Bond heat surged, hearts stuttering into unison for 2-3 beats. She swore he could hear her swallow. "Dismissed," he said to the boy in guard without looking away. They scrambled out. Jarek lingered, uncertain. "Go," Callan told him gently. Jarek slipped through the door. Zayn roamed the room slowly, inspecting jars like a general surveying weapons. "You've been busy." "Using my skills as you ordered," she replied, surprised at the steadiness of her tone. "You talk freely with my pack." His voice iced the air. Friendly smiles lead to loose tongues. "They're patients," she said. "People. They are tools." He shot a look at Callan. "Security reports whisper about glowing hands. Care to explain?" Blood drained from her face. "Children exaggerate." Zayn moved closer, too close, scent of pine and cold iron circling her senses. "I have no patience for lies." Her wolf rose, small but fierce. "Tell him nothing. Not until we understand." Aveline lifted her chin. "Then do not ask questions you wouldn't believe." His nostrils flared. The bond pulsed, his anger streaking through her chest like fire. Her breath hitched. Flickers of warmth sparked along her fingertips again. She hid them behind her skirt folds. Callan cleared his throat. "Alpha, perhaps—" "Silence," Zayn snapped. He stepped even closer, eyes the pale edge of a blade. "You will return to your rooms. You will remain there until I decide otherwise." "You cannot lock me away forever," she said, voice cracking. "I can and will," he answered. "You belong to me, remember that." Her cheeks burned. "I will remember what fate decided, not you." His wolf lunged against its cage, wanting to shake sense into him. "She's afraid." "Ease, fool." Zayn crushed it down. Without another word, he turned on his heel and stalked out. He strode from the infirmary into an empty corridor, rage pulsing like a second heart. Each step echoed, a drumbeat for anger his voice had failed to unleash. Why did her defense, so quiet, scrape him raw? Why did the faint shimmer of her skin haunt his sight like an afterimage of lightning? His wolf paced, claws clicking on invisible floors. Her courage smelled sweet. Admit it. Sweet or not, it was dangerous. Kindness tempted softness. Softness invited hurt. He pressed a palm to his chest as though he could slow the frantic pounding, but the bond vibrated hotter the farther he marched. Distance should dull it, yet every footstep stretched the tether until it hummed pain. Pathetic, he told himself. He'd endured blade and fang. One thin healer could not unravel him. He pictured her standing ankle-deep in herb petals, eyes wide but unbowed. She lacked venom, yet her gentleness scraped places scar tissue had covered. places he'd rather keep numb. His wolf halted mid-prowl, lifted a mental muzzle. Perhaps numb is worse than hurt. Zayn ignored the whisper, but it clung like burrs. At the stairwell, he paused, hand squeezing the rail until metal creaked. Orders to lock her door formed on his tongue. But something resisted. If he barred her in again, she'd shrink smaller than the lively spirit he glimpsed when she defended the wounded. A small spirit is easy to crush, his darker side argued. Safer. Yet the image of her wilting behind bolts tightened his throat. He cursed under breath, palms stinging from iron. Fine. Unlock it. Let her taste freedom, but make the corridors watchful. A test, to prove she would not run. His wolf settled, satisfied. Protect by leash, not cage. Zayn set his jaw, pivoted down the stairs to training yards, blade hunger already rising. Steel awaited. Clean pain, honest work. No healer's touch to confuse him. Callan lingered with Avaline after Zayn left, regret in the slope of his shoulders. I'll escort you, he said softly. I know the way. Shame tasted metallic on her tongue, but she walked, refusing to let tears fall until she was out of sight. Callan guided Avaline through the keep's arteries in a silence that felt almost kind. Every torch they passed painted shadows that leaned like nosy spirits, listening for weakness. Halfway down the east corridor, she spoke first, voice low enough not to carry. Does he always lock doors? Only when he thinks something valuable might run, Callan answered. Or break. I'm not a vase, she said, surprised by the edge in her own tone. Callan's mouth tilted, sorrow more than humor. No, you're not. But he has lost things before. He believes loss comes from loosened grips. Aveline thought of the latch sliding shut each night. Tight grips can shatter bone. They reached her door. Callan produced a key, but before he used it, he offered her the smallest grace he could give. If you need anything, send word through Jarek. He's quick, and he can keep quiet. I need freedom, she said, then regretted the bitterness. I'm sorry. Thank you for helping. Callan inclined his head, unlocked the door, and waited until she stepped over the threshold. She turned to face him, the hall lantern throwing a soft glow across his weather-lined face. His gaze flicked to the scarf in her hand, then back to her eyes. Your strength may surprise you, he said. It already surprises him. Before she could answer, he pulled the door closed and relocked it. The bolt mazed into place with a thunk that seemed to echo longer than it should. She pressed her back against the wood, inhaling the faint cedar scent left by Callan's coat. Her room felt smaller than yesterday, even though nothing had changed. The fire burned low. She crossed to feed it a log, sparks leaping like startled birds. When she held her hand near the flicker, pale light washed across her skin again, no brighter than moonlit water, but undeniable. Her wolf sighed in awe. We are changing. She went to the bath chamber. The tub was already filled. Someone had been in while she was gone, leaving steaming water fragrant with pine. She unbuttoned blouse and skirt, stepping out of each piece as if shedding old skin. The water stung in the first breath, then settled warm around aching muscles. She submerged to her chin, loose hair floating like seagrass. The glow spread in lazy circles, feathering across the bath like milk and tea. Avaline should have felt awe, but panic prickled her scalp. What if someone barged in? What if this light called Zayn the way a lantern lured moths? Before she could scramble out, a flash of someone else's past slammed into her, a vision not her own. Fire. Deafening roars. A woman's scream torn short. She jerked, water sloshing. Faint echoing words reached her mind. Not her ears. Zayn, run. Then crimson light, steel glinting, a rogue's jaws closing around a delicate throat. The image snapped away, leaving her shivering. She pressed trembling fingers to her temples. The bathwater dimmed, light sinking back into her skin. She gasped for breath. Had she glimpsed Zayn's memory? The rogue attack that killed his mate? The sheer agony in that half-heard voice hollowed her chest. Her wolf licked the edges of the fear tremor. The bond carries echoes, shadows. We saw what shaped his cold. Aveline hugged her knees, chin dropping, empathy warred with dread. How could she hate a man sculpted by loss? Yet how could she forgive the cruelty forged from it? Tears slid, lost in cooling water. She whispered to the candle's tiny flame, "Moon, what am I meant to do with his pain?" The flame bent toward her like a listening ear. No answer came. She drained the tub, dressed and wiped the wet floor spotless as if removing evidence of both her magic and his ghosts. A knock startled her midway through. When she opened the door, unlocked again, Jarek stood there balancing 2 burlap sacks. "Mistress Vera sent your supplies," he said. "Herbs and, extra linens." He looked uncertain, as if expecting Zayn to appear from behind a pillar. She stepped aside. "Please bring them in." He set the sacks near her table. "I also brought parchment and ink. Figured you might want to write home." The kindness cracked the shell she'd built since morning. "Thank you," she said, voice thick. Jarek reddened. "If you hand me the letter, I'll make sure it's posted with the merchant caravan tonight. They won't be searched." "You'd risk that?" "I know a prisoner when I see one, Luna." Then he looked horrified by his own boldness. "I mean—" "It's all right," she said. "I know it too." He nodded, gaze skittering. "I should go. Warriors are due for stitch checks." "Wait." She fetched a small tin from the herb box, pressed it into his hand. "Comfrey and frankincense paste, for muscle bruises. Use sparingly. A little goes far." Jarek's fingers tightened around the tin. "Thank you." He slipped out like a shadow fleeing dawn. She sealed the door, sat at the desk, and unfurled parchment. The blank sheet glared brighter than any torch. Her quill hovered. "Dear Mother." Words came in a rush, then slowed, clogged by caution. What could she say? Safe was a lie. Broken was premature. She settled on breathing and hope, folded the letter, and tied it with lavender thread from her scattered sprigs. When she knelt to arrange her new herbs on the lowest shelf, a stray sliver of wood sliced her finger. Blood welled. Instinctively, she pressed thumb to cut. Light flared beneath skin, heat rushing. The wound closed before another drop could form. She stared, heartbeat drumming. She wasn't hallucinating. She could heal flesh like sealing wax. Her wolf exhaled wonder. Moon blessed. Footsteps thudded overhead, heavy and rhythmic. She pictured soldiers training in the courtyard she'd glimpsed through the window. Was Zayn with them? She felt a distant thrum, strain, sweat, aggression spiking across the bond. He was pushing himself hard, probably harder than his warriors. She almost reached out, then recoiled. Dark fell gradually, blue light fading to iron. No one brought supper. She didn't mind. Stew had taken the edge off hunger. Instead, she experimented, touching a sprig of wilted thyme, coaxing it with whispered thought. Her palm glimmered and the herb perked, color deepening. She laughed softly, the sound tinged with panic. If Zayn saw, would he cage her more tightly? Or use her as a weapon? Her wolf rumbled. Secrets can guard us until they free us. A distant bell marked 9th hour. The keep settled into quiet, punctuated by occasional doors and faint conversation. She washed, braided her hair, and lay in bed clutching the scarf. Sleep prowled but did not pounce. Finally, exhaustion dragged her under. Dream took her to the moonlit forest again. She felt stone cool beneath bare feet. Smelled pine sap. Zayn's wolf emerged between trees, towering, black as pitch, eyes molten gold. It stepped into a shaft of silver and lowered its head. Avaline's wolf manifested beside her, smaller but strong, fur pale ash streaked with honey. They approached, cautious, heartbeats synchronized. Thump, pause, thump, a rhythm she recognized from waking moments. Her wolf spoke first, voice a soft wind through branches. "We mean no harm." Zayn's wolf answered with a rumble, shaking leaves. "He hurts, so he hurts." Avaline reached out, fingers brushing air. The wolves moved closer. Noses nearly touched. Warmth burst in her chest, tender and fierce, a promise of something whole. She woke with a gasp, room dark, hearth embers smoldering. Her palm glowed again, brighter than before. She clenched fist to extinguish it, pulse racing. Across the keep, Zayn bolted upright in tangled sheets. Sweat chilled on his skin. The bond hummed louder than any dream. His wolf pressed conscious thought. She is frightened. We frighten her. She will adapt, he snarled. Why break what the moon mended? Mended? He swung legs over the bed, staring at the shadowy floor. She is a crack the moon drove into us. A knock. He barked. Enter. Callan stepped in, eyes flicking over the Alpha's restless posture. No reports, but patrols heard a rogue howl at the ridge. Scouts will check at dawn. Double night watch. He rubbed his temples. Anything else? Callan hesitated. The healer girl. Staff say she hasn't eaten supper. She eats when she's hungry. Hungry people disobey faster. Zayn's jaw hardened. Let her starve one meal. She will learn the shape of want. Callan's shoulders rose, fell. As you will. He backed out, closing the door. Alone, Zayn paced the length of his chamber. The dream clung like spider silk. He remembered her wolf's scent, wildflower honey and new leaves, as distinct as the healer's own. His wolf ached to return to that clearing. He slammed a fist against the wooden wardrobe. The wood groaned but held. You are my weakness, he hissed to the night, though who he addressed, moon, mate, or self, blurred. He forced his body into stillness by the window. Outside, clouds swept across the moon, silver slicing through their edges. It lit the east wing tower where her room burned a single candle glow. He felt her through stone and distance, pulse rapid, worry rushing veins. The connection pulled, insistent. He gripped the windowsill until nails bit wood. She will learn, he whispered, voice hoarse. Or break. His wolf's reply was wind-soft. Perhaps you will. Moonlight thinned as the night crawled toward dawn, but sleep never returned to either of them. Avaline sat cross-legged on her bed, the scarf coiled around her wrists like a tether to sanity. Every time she relaxed her fingers, a soft, pearly shine bled through her skin. She blew out the candle to hide it, though no one was there to see. The dark felt safer than the truth glowing in her hands. Her wolf urged calm. Listen to the keep. Learn its breathing. So she listened. The distant hiss of banking fires, the dull thud of boots on the battlements, the muted clang of anvil echoes from the smithy where weapons were sharpened through the night. Somewhere a lone wolf howled, close enough to be pack, far enough to sound like grief. She wrapped her arms around her knees and rocked once, twice, until the urge to leave the room became a tidal pull. The bolt sat in its clasp, gleaming faintly. She rose on silent feet and pressed an ear to the door. Nothing but stillness on the other side. The impulse to test the handle pulsed. Disobedience could bring punishment, but the room felt too small to breathe. She tried the knob. It turned. Callan must have unlocked it during rounds. Heart hammering, she eased the door open. The corridor lay dim, lit by lanterns spaced wide enough to leave pools of darkness. She slipped out, soft-soled shoes muting her steps. Every creak of timber sounded like an alarm. Her wolf kept pace, ears pricked. At the corridor's midpoint, she paused by an arched window. The courtyard shimmered silver. Warriors sparred with wooden staves, training even in the dead hours. They moved with brutal grace, sweat steaming off bare shoulders. Zayn was among them, shirtless, muscles roped with effort. He fought two opponents at once, staff whirling like an extension of his anger. The bond carried the rhythm of his heartbeat, fast, controlled, laced with something like pain. She swayed, overwhelmed by the current of strength and loneliness crashing from him. Her wolf growled soft warning, we should go back. Curiosity anchored her. She pressed closer to the glass, breath fogging a circle. Zayn's staff cracked against a warrior's block, splintering wood. He tossed the broken haft aside and signaled for a real blade. When steel flashed, the air changed. Warriors hesitated, unsure if practice had become peril. Zayn lunged, edge slicing sparks off the other sword. In the bond, she tasted his need to bleed. His own or another's. It didn't matter. Avaline's stomach tightened. She had seen field surgeons patch men ruined by war, but she'd never watched a man try to outrun ghosts with violence. The second warrior stumbled under Zayn's assault. Training masters called a halt. Zayn ignored them. He twisted, the blades flat, knocking the sword from his opponent's grip. Metal skittered across stone. Gasps rose. Zayn stood over the disarmed man, chest heaving, eyes feral. Enough, his wolf barked inside him. Zayn's snarl folded into himself. He threw the sword to the ground and strode off the practice square, shoving past hands that would steady him. The other warriors sagged, relief breaking over the group like dawn. Aveline exhaled shakily. Without thought, she sent a thread along the bond. A flutter of reassurance meant less for him than to soothe her own pounding heart. The reaction was immediate. Zayn halted under the arch leading back into the keep, head snapping up toward her window, though darkness hid her face. Even at distance, she felt the burst of shock, then fury. He knew she was out of her room. Knew she'd seen. Her wolf bristled. Run. Avaline spun, skirts whispering. A voice cut through shadow. You're not meant to wander. Mistress Vera emerged from a side alcove like doom given shape, keys jangling at her belt. I couldn't sleep, Avaline whispered. Return before you give the Alpha another reason to chain you tighter. Vera's tone held no malice, only weary fact. She held out a candle stub, lit. Avaline accepted it, the small flame painting both their faces gold. Footsteps landed heavy on the stairwell at the corridor's end. Zayn appeared, still shirtless, sword calluses fresh scars of effort. Candlelight licked over his shoulders, revealing bruises already darkening. His gaze locked on Avaline, with a heat that scalded. Vera bowed. Alpha. Leave us, he said. Vera hesitated, glanced at Avaline, then slipped past him without a word. The corridor stretched empty, but for them, flame and tension. I gave you an order, Zayn said, voice low as the blade he'd discarded. Rooms are not suggestions. I needed air, she replied, candle trembling. There is air inside. He stalked closer. You watched me fight. Yes. She forced herself to meet his eyes. I worried. One dark brow rose. You presume to care? It's the bond, she said, grip white around wax. It pulls feelings whether we invite them or not. I feel nothing. He stopped an arm's reach away, but the bond belied the lie. His pulse thundered against hers. Return to your bed. She swallowed. Will you lock the door again? If necessary. A flicker of defiance straightened her spine. Cages don't tame wolves, Zayn. His name on her tongue hit him like a lash. His wolf surged, pushing against ribs. Touch her. Comfort. Something. Zayn clenched fists. You know nothing of cages. I know enough to recognize one, she whispered. The candle flame danced closer to his chest with each swirl of air beetling between them. A vein ticked in his jaw. You test my patience. Perhaps patience is what you need. The words escaped before caution could muzzle them. Zayn's laugh was short, bitter. Patience is for men who believe they can be healed. Her eyes warmed tears she refused to shed. Everyone can heal given time. She thought of the boy's wrist, the way light answered her will. Some wounds just hide deeper. Spare me healer platitudes. He twisted, pacing a step away, then back, as if fighting chains on his own limbs. Candlelight revealed a fresh cut along his shoulder, blood beading where the sword's edge had grazed. Without thinking, she reached to touch it. The moment her fingers brushed skin, light pulsed, bright enough to extinguish the candle in her other hand. Warmth flooded the cut, flesh knotted closed. Zayn inhaled sharply, muscles locking. She jerked back, candle stub falling to carpet. "What did you do?" His voice shook like mountains before an avalanche. She stared at her glowing palm, terrified. I don't know. It happens." He seized her wrist, dragging her hand into the narrow glow of a wall lantern. The radiance dimmed under his shadow, but the healed skin on his shoulder spoke louder. Horror and fascination warred in his eyes. "Magic," he breathed. "You hide more secrets." "I'm hiding nothing," she said, though tears welled. "I only found out today. It heals without asking." He released her as if burned. "And you thought to experiment on me?" "I wanted to help." "I don't need your help." He stepped back, breath ragged. "This is another trick of fate. More shackles." "Power isn't a shackle," she whispered, though doubt quavered. "Maybe it's purpose." "Purpose?" He scoffed. "The moon dumps a wounded bird at my feet and expects me to nurse it. Now the bird spreads radiant wings, shining reminders of everything I lost." The cruelty stung deeper for being half compliment. "If my light offends you, look away." His wolf growled approval at her courage. Zayn's lips parted, surprise slicing through anger. Then it settled into colder lines. "I'll look where I wish." She bent to retrieve the candle, hands steady despite shaking inside. "Then watch me walk back to my room." She turned. "Wait." His voice cracked like splitting ice. He dragged a hand through sweat-damp hair. "The wrist. How?" "I don't know," she said again, exhausted. "Pain calls and I answer. Answering has consequences. My pack will fear what they don't understand." "Then let them learn," she said softly, "or live in ignorance and bleed." He stared, conflict carved across every angle of his face. Finally, he stepped aside, granting passage. She moved past, the bond humming a note of resignation, like a promise deferred, not broken. Midway to her door, she paused, half turning. "I can lock myself in," she said. "Trust isn't built with bolts." He said nothing, only watched her disappear into shadow. Inside her room, she closed the door but didn't engage the latch. She leaned against it, palm still faintly aglow. Her wolf quivered with shaken pride, yet whispered one steady truth. We stood. We did not bow. She crossed to the desk, blew on embers until they glowed and lit a fresh candle. Its tame flame felt small beside the raw light under her skin. She peeled parchment from the stack and penned a single line beneath the letter to her mother. "I am changing, but I am not lost." She tucked it back into the fold, sealing it with a drop of melted wax. The glow faded from her hand. She climbed into bed, scarf against her throat, and let exhaustion pull her downward. This time, no dream found her, only blank dark, laced with restless heartbeat echoing someone else's. Across the keep, Zayn stood rooted where she'd left him. Blood no longer seeped from the cut, skin flawless beneath the smear. He touched it, disbelief mixing with anger until neither felt distinct. His wolf prowled in circles. "She saved you." "She shamed me," he muttered, though conviction trembled. The wolf snapped. "She did what mates do. We protect." He closed eyes against memory, her soft fingers the heat that settled calm in his chest even as fury raged. No one had touched him with kindness since the night everything burned. The reminder sliced deeper than any blade. He opened his eyes, jaw locking. Weakness. Not kindness. Weakness. Yet he did not bolt her door again. Instead, he returned to his chamber, threw on a shirt, and doused the chamber lamps. But sleep refused him, circling just out of reach. Each time he shut his eyes, he saw her hand glowing against his skin, the wound gone, the warmth lingering. She will learn, he told the silence, or break trying. His wolf lay down at last, snarling, restless, but too tired to argue. Zayn sat in the dark until dawn bled pale across the horizon, the bond humming between beats like a question neither dared answer. Which would break first? Her fear or his hate? Avaline surfaced from uneasy dreams to the scrape of boots in the corridor. For a long moment she lay still, heartbeat riding the bond's faint thrum, eyes fixed on the ceiling where dawn light licked stone a watery gray. Sleep had offered no refuge. She'd drifted in and out of the moonlit forest again, always waking at the moment Zayn's wolf circled hers. Now morning pressed against the tower like a hand at her throat. She rose and padded to the door. The latch clicked softly when she tested it, unlocked, but when she eased it open a hand's breadth, a figure blocked the threshold. A warrior in dark leathers, straightened, spear-tip helmet brushing the lintel. "Good morning, Luna," he said, neutral as an empty bowl. "Orders are to remain at your post until Mistress Vera escorts you." "My post," she repeated, tasting the bitterness. "And if I need anything?" "Knock." He gestured at the plank between them, then resumed his stance. Aveline shut the door, pulse thrumming. Her wolf paced inside her thoughts, tail low. Chains tighten one link at a time. A tray had been left on the bedside table. Porridge, thick as mortar, an apple, a mug of tea that had gone cold. She ignored it and crossed to her herb shelf, kneeling to inventory for the 100th time. Yesterday's confrontation in the infirmary replayed. The scout's blood, her glowing palm, Zayn's eyes storm dark. The memory still scalded. Her hand shook when she reached for a sprig of blue-kissed lunaria, an herb known in old chronicles to heighten latent magic. She slipped 3 petals into the sash at her waist, an act so small it felt enormous. Rebellion, fragrant as night-bloom flower. A knock, sharp, economical. Mistress Vera entered without waiting for response, keys tapping against her apron. "Breakfast," Vera said, glancing at the untouched tray. "Eat." "I'm not hungry." "Hunger won't help you." Vera's gaze was brisk but not unkind. "New directives. You will work under escort only. No healing without the Alpha's consent." Avaline's stomach twisted. I understand." Vera surveyed the room, perhaps looking for contraband, perhaps measuring Avaline's obedience. "Guard Reese will accompany you to the infirmary." "I'm still trusted to work?" "Trusted to be watched," Vera corrected. She stepped aside and gestured. "Come." In the corridor, Reese joined them, a silent sentinel half a pace behind. The walk felt longer than yesterday. Every servant who passed dipped shallow acknowledgments, curiosity bright in their eyes. Somewhere deeper in the keep, hammers chimed, forging iron that would never be gentle. She kept her gaze forward, but whispers followed. Cursed healer, witchlight, Alpha's chain. Her wolf bristled, head high, they smell weakness. Avaline obeyed the instinct, lengthening her stride. At the infirmary door, Vera paused. "Remember, no glowing hands, unless the Alpha commands it." Cold pricked along Avaline's spine. "He commands cruelty more easily than kindness." A flicker, sympathy, crossed Vera's face before it shuddered. "Cruelty keeps this keep breathing. Inside, healer." Jarek looked up as she entered, relief softening his freckled features. "Morning, Luna. Inventory's low on silverweed. He noticed Reese hovering by the door and fell silent. Aveline offered a small smile. "We'll manage with substitutes." She unpacked bandages, forcing calm. Her fingers found the lunaria petals in her sash, pressing them flat. A private talisman. Work first, worry later. An hour later, the ward quieted, sunlight pouring through high windows, when commotion rolled in like thunder. 2 scouts burst through, one supporting the other, whose thigh was soaked scarlet. "Rogues near the ridge," the uninjured scout panted. Arrow-pierced muscle. The wounded man, Hale, collapsed onto a cot, face white beneath grime. Reese stepped forward, hand on hilt. "Stand down," Avaline said, surprising herself with authority. She sliced open Hale's trouser leg. The arrow had been snapped, leaving the head buried deep, blood pulsing sluggishly. Years of healer training took over. Find forceps, cleanse wound, keep patient conscious. Hale, she said calmly, look at me. Name your squad leader. Garrick, he gasped. Good, you'll tell him a healer saved your hide. She flashed at Jarek a command with her eyes. He hustled for hot water. As she disinfected the flesh, the bond tugged, Zayn approaching fast. She felt his stride in the floorboards, the electric pressure of his presence. The wound needed stitching, but first the iron heart must be removed. Her hands trembled. Jarek returned and she grasped the arrow fragment with forceps. Hale cried out. Blood welled bright. Avaline's wolf pushed forward, a low hum of protect. Light flickered at her fingertips. She swallowed hard, knowing Zayn would burst in any second. Jarek, press here, she ordered. Her palm brushed Hale's skin. Warmth surged, glow blooming like sunrise through fog. Tissue knit around the arrowhead, forcing it outward. Metal clinked into the basin. Jarek's eyes went round. The door slammed. Zayn strode in, Beta Callan at his flank. Conversation died. Even the dust motes seemed to freeze. Avaline kept pressure on the wound, lips tight. Light faded, leaving clean flesh. She wrapped fresh bandage, knotting it with steady fingers. Zayn scanned the scene. Blood basin, pale scout. Faint gold shimmer still teasing Avaline's skin. Something unreadable flashed in his eyes. Out, he said. The room emptied on that single syllable. Jarek, scouts, Reese, even Vera retreating. Only Callan stayed behind, closing the door. Silence. Avaline stood, wiping hands on linen. Her legs threatened to buckle, but she locked her knees. Zayn approached slowly. The space felt airless. What did I order yesterday? Her voice rasped. No healing without your consent. And yet. He gestured to the cot. Glow, glory, gratitude, defiance. If I hadn't acted, he would have bled out. That is my concern, not yours. Her temper sparked, a blue flame in cold dark. You decree life and death now? I decree obedience. His voice slid like steel across stone. Her wolf rose, hackles high. Do not cower. She straightened. Your decree would have killed him. Callan shifted, but Zayn's lifted hand silenced him. Zayn stepped closer until she smelled sweat and steel. The bond pulsed, hearts aligning despite fury. His gaze dropped to her faintly glowing fingers. What is that power? He demanded low. I don't know. Truth tasted fragile. It answers pain. Then stop answering. He seized her wrist. Light flared stronger at his skin. His breath hitched. The bond shivered between them, a live wire. Avaline bit back a gasp. Heat curled where their pulses met. Her wolf wanted to lean in. Soothe. His wolf prowled. Torn. Zayn's jaw flexed. He released her as if scorched, turning away. You're barred from the infirmary until further notice. Vera will assign you cloister duty. No contact with my warriors. Cloister duty? The words scraped. Records, linens, anything that keeps you harmless. He pivoted back, eyes hard. If you test me again. What? Her voice shook but didn't break. You'll lock me deeper? If necessary. He leaned forward, breath brushing her ear. Or I'll find a way to silence that traitorous light. She flinched, but anger held her ground. You can't kill what you refuse to understand. He froze at that, an old wound flashing raw in his gaze. For an instant it felt like standing within his heartbeat. Ache, loss, rage braided together. Then shutters slammed behind his eyes. Return to your room, he said, ice flat. She swallowed protest, skirted around him, and reached the door. At the threshold she spoke without turning. You can bar every door, Zayn, but the bond walks with us both. His inhale was a growl. She walked into the hall, pulse racing, Wolf's whisper steady at her back. Live another day. Callan caught up 2 strides later, expression tight. Are you all right? No, she said, voice raw. But I'm alive. They passed 2 she-wolves who stepped aside, whispering curses under breath. Avaline kept forward. Callan's jaw clenched, but he didn't challenge them. At her door, Reese resumed guardian position. Callan unlocked the bolt. I'll send supper, he said quietly. Thank you, she whispered. She stepped inside, door closing behind like a final sigh. Her legs gave way. She slid to the floor, back against cold wood, hands shaking, faint light still pulsing beneath skin. Tears threatened, but she blinked them back. Not now. She pressed a hand to her chest, feeling the echo of Zayn's heartbeat still thundering inside her ribs. Aveline didn't allow herself to sit on the floor for long. Still trembling, she pushed up, crossed to the wash basin, and splashed cold water on her face. The liquid smelled faintly of iron. The keep drew its supply from deep springs, Vera had once said, pure but rich with minerals. She braced her hands on the basin's rim and met her own gaze in the tarnished mirror. The pearly sheen beneath her skin had ebbed, leaving only dark-rimmed eyes and a mouth thinned by stubbornness. She took one steadying breath, then another. Her wolf stirred with weary pride. Still standing. A soft rap sounded. Vera again. Aveline turned, schooling her features. I've come for the linens, Vera said, stepping inside. She carried a wicker basket and an expression carved from long habit. The Alpha has reassigned you. Records in the North Cloister need transcribing. You start this evening. Aveline gathered the soiled bandages she'd brought back earlier, placing them in the basket. Did he send further instruction? Vera's brow ticked. Only that you are to keep quiet. She hesitated, glanced at the faint shimmer still ghosting Avaline's fingertips. I've seen power ruin gentler souls. Hide it well. The unexpected warning loosened something behind Avaline's sternum. Thank you, she murmured. Vera's lips pressed thin. Thank me by surviving. She turned and left, basket balanced on hip. Alone again, Avaline paced the small chamber. She needed to write her mother, needed to pour out fear and fury so they didn't rot inside. She retrieved parchment, quill, and the small bottle of ink Jarek had smuggled. The nib clicked against glass as she dipped it. Mother, I am safe in body, she began. The keep is cold, yet I find embers of kindness. She paused. Better not mention Jarek by name. Or Callan. Anyone could intercept the letter. She scratched out the line, started anew. The Alpha remains distant. The pack is wary. I am learning to listen more than speak. The words felt thin, dishonest. She wanted to confess everything. The glowing hands, the suffocating bond that throbbed even now like a second pulse. She wanted her mother's voice telling her to be brave, to remember who she was before fate dragged her here. But truth could travel wrong roads. With a sigh, she folded the half-written page, set it aside, and lit a candle. The flame caught, tiny and determined. She held the parchment over it. At first, only the edges curled, then embers raced through the fibrous weave, devouring ink. Ash fluttered to the hearth. Avaline pressed a fist to her lips to smother a sob. Her wolf nudged gently. We still speak to her through breath, through hope. A bell chimed distantly. 7th hour. The cloister would expect her soon. She rinsed her face again, braided her hair, and reached for her thickest shawl. As she opened the door, Reese straightened from his post. Escort, he said, and I know. She drew the shawl tight and followed. Shadows lengthened across flagstones, torchlight pooling in orange slabs. 2 passing she-wolves slowed, eyes traveling from Avaline's plait to her plain dress. That's her, one whispered to the other. The glow witch. The second's lip curled. Pretty trick won't save her when the Alpha tires. Avaline kept walking, but the words lodged like thorns. Rhys glanced back, but protocol chained him silent. At the stairwell, voices rose ahead, laughter edged with malice. Two young she-wolves blocked the corridor, arms folded, confident, sharp as claws. "You're off course, healer," the taller one said. Hair the color of ravens, eyes like ice chips. "No infirmary for you." "I'm due in the cloister," Aveline replied, voice even. "Yes, records," the second said with a sneer. "Scribbles suit a cursed girl." Aveline tried to step around, but the taller wolf mirrored, shoulder slamming into hers. The impact rocked her. Her elbow banged stone. Rhys cleared his throat, hand drifting to sword hilt. "Step aside." "Orders from the Alpha?" the raven-haired wolf mocked. He didn't forbid conversation. Her companion leaned closer to Avaline. "I'd hide that glow if I were you. Some of us prefer our Alpha untainted." Avaline's wolf snapped inside, hackles rising. She straightened, meeting the icy gaze. "I prefer packs that protect rather than poison," she said quietly. Icy eyes laughed. "Sharp tongue? Pray it doesn't get trimmed." Rhys shifted forward, but footsteps echoed behind. The she-wolves glanced past Avaline and paled. Callan approached, expression granite. "Last I recall," Callan said, voice dangerously calm. "The Alpha didn't authorize bullying." He looked from one to the other. "Run the perimeter if you're hungry for exercise." The pair opened their mouths, but his cold stare withered arguments. They slunk away, boots scraping. Callan's gaze softened on Avaline. "Don't let them smell your fear." "I'm tired of fear," she said, voice trembling despite herself. He sighed. "Fear can keep you alive. Rage will too if you wield it wisely. Just be careful." She nodded, fighting a sudden sting of tears. Callan looked to Rhys. "Take her to the cloister. I'll clear interference." He strode off, cloak snapping. Rhys gestured forward. The cloister corridor yawned quiet, lined with arched alcoves where monks once copied scriptures before the keep took the land. Now dusty ledgers and scrolls filled shelves. The scent of parchment almost soothed Avaline. Rhys stationed himself outside as she slipped into the vaulted room. A single lamp flickered on a central table piled high with records, birth logs, treaty copies, supply manifests. Avaline exhaled, shoulders dropping. She selected a ledger labeled Quartermaster Notations, dipped quill, and began transcribing faded entries to fresh vellum. The repetitive motion calmed her until whispers of heartbeats faded to background hum. Hours bled by. Her neck cramped, fingers cramped worse. Outside, the keep settled deeper into evening. At 9th hour, a tray arrived. Bread, cheese, a bowl of stew. Rhys set it inside with a curt nod. She thanked him and ate, appetite dull but present. When the bowl was empty, she resumed copying. The monk-like silence allowed thoughts to drift. She replayed Zayn's face when her magic sealed flesh. Shock, awe, anger braided so tight it strangled itself. Her wolf whispered, "He felt what we felt. Heat, safety, terror." She rubbed eyes gritty with fatigue. Ink blurred. She rose to stretch, wandering between shelves. Scrolls rustled in faint drafts. One lay half unfurled, luminous script glowing faintly. Arcane symbols she couldn't decipher. She touched the edge, warm. A flicker of light answered beneath her skin, resonance thrumming like matched strings. She jerked back, heart racing. The glow faded, but curiosity lingered. She rolled the scroll, gently replaced it. These archives held older magic than her own. A clang echoed deeper in the hall, a door closing hard. Rhys's muffled voice spoke, then fell silent. Footsteps approached, the cadence she could recognize blindfolded. Zayn. She swallowed, heart galloping. The lamp guttered as if sensing tension. He stepped into the archway, dark hair damp, shirt half unlaced, eyes rimmed red from sleeplessness. The bond pulled tight enough to hurt. Cloister duty agrees with you, he said, voice harsh silk. Quiet work keeps you contained. She placed quill down, masking shaking hands. It copies histories, nothing more. Histories lie. He stalked toward her, each step deliberate, like healers who glow. Her jaw clenched. I didn't choose this power. No. The moon laughs at us both. He stopped a breath away. The lamp cast half his face in gold, half in shadow. Demonstrate. She stared. No. His brows rose. No. You said my magic answers emotion, pain, not command. She folded arms over her chest to hide trembling. Find someone sick. I won't harm a healthy body to prove a point. His mouth twisted. You think me cruel enough to bleed one of my own? You bled a warrior with a wooden staff yesterday, she said quietly. He flinched minutely, but she saw. His wolf growled low, ashamed. Avaline's wolf softened, wanting to soothe, but she held the instinct in check. Zayn reached out suddenly, fingers grazing her braid tail. She froze. The bond crackled. He tugged lightly, pulling her nearer. Breath mingled, pine and parchment, and the faint copper tang of earlier training. Her heart hammered so loud she feared Reese might burst in. What does the glow feel like? He murmured, voice rasping. Heat? Pleasure? Like stitching light to skin. She whispered. Like water sealing cracks. Show me. His thumb brushed the pulse at her throat. Light flickered under her jaw. He shuddered, eyes darkening to molten amber. For a heartbeat he looked undone. Lonely, longing. Her wolf whimpered. Comfort. She lifted a hand, hesitant, and placed it over his. Heat swelled, light blooming through their joined skin. Zayn inhaled sharply, head tipping back as if relief slid down his throat. Their heartbeats pounded in synchrony. Then he jerked away, breathing hard, pupils blown. The bond snapped taut, then recoiled like a wounded thing. Enough, he snarled. You poison resolve. Tears pricked her eyes, but she wouldn't let them fall. You asked. I command. He turned, pacing like a caged storm. Your touch is a weapon. I won't be disarmed. It isn't a weapon, she protested, voice cracking. It heals. Then heal yourself, he spat, striding to the door. He paused, hand on frame. If I summon you again, you'll obey, or I will make certain obedience is the only choice left. He vanished. His absence echoed louder than the slam of the door. Avaline sagged against a shelf, forcing slow breaths. Her palm still glowed faintly, as if missing his warmth. Hours later, cloister work forgotten, she returned to her room under Reese's silent escort. Candlelight wavered. She washed, slid beneath the thin blanket, and stared at the ceiling while the bond hummed restless lullabies. Sleep must have taken her eventually, because she woke in darkness, hand throbbing with warmth. She lifted it. Pale light spilled across her scarless palm. The tiny childhood cut, once a thin, silvered line, was gone. Heart racing, she crept to the window. Outside, the courtyard lay awash in moonlight. Zayn stood unmoving amid silver glow, shirt discarded, scars mapped across his torso. He faced the sky, eyes closed, as if begging the moon for answers he'd never accept. The bond thrummed between them, a string drawn so tight it sang. He doesn't have to break me to keep me, but I think he wants to. Candlelight surrendered to dawn before Avaline allowed herself to move away from the window. Her palm still tingled from vanished scars, but the glow had faded to a memory. She pressed the heel of her hand over her racing heart. Zayn remained below, motionless as a gargoyle. Only when first sunbeams brushed the ramparts did he turn and disappear through an archway. The bond slackened, not enough to soothe, just enough to breathe. She washed, dressed, and paced until Reese knocked. Today his eyes held something like sympathy, as though night whispers had reached even the stoic guard. He escorted her to the cloister without a word. Ink and paper duty seemed a meager penance for yesterday's outburst, but she felt Zayn's edict looming like a stone above water. ready to sink at any misstep. Hours crawled. She copied grain ledgers, supply tallies, casualty counts from rogue skirmishes. Some entries left her skin cold. 12 injured, 2 dead. Border patrols thinned. The keep did not merely train for war, it lived in war's shadow. Once she paused over a name. Hale, thigh wound sutured. She traced the letters, thinking of blood and light and Zayn's face when the wound closed. Her wolf stirred. Healing binds as strong as claws. Mid-afternoon, Callan strode in, cloak spattered with mud. He waited until Reese stepped outside, then approached the table. Voice pitched low. Scouts report rogues gathering south. Zayn rides at dusk. Fear punched her lungs. He's leaving the keep? For a night, 2 at most. She pictured open forests, claws in moonlight. He's hurt. You saw the cut on his shoulder. Your power fixed it, Callan said. He hesitated, fingers drumming the ledger's edge. I came to warn you. Pack whispers grow uglier. Without Zayn's presence, some may test boundaries. I can't hide in this room forever. You can survive until dawn. Callan's mouth twisted. And if trouble finds you, call me. A flicker of gratitude warmed her chest. Thank you. Callan departed, shadows snapping behind him. Avaline worked until quill lines blurred, then stood to stretch. She drifted to the shelf with the arcane scrolls. The warm one called again. She unrolled it beneath the lamp. Symbols shimmered faint gold, echoing the color of her healing light. As her fingers brushed ink, words surfaced. Old tongue, yet her mind shaped meaning. Gifts arise when pain and purpose collide. Beneath a diagram of 2 wolves intertwined, hearts aglow. Her wolf knows the glowing script, ears perked. Fate carves twin paths. She rolled the scroll, pulse thrumming. Knowledge could be as dangerous as magic. Evening bells rang. Vera arrived with supper. She eyed the scroll, but Avaline replaced it calmly and accepted the tray. You'll dine in your chamber tonight, Vera said. The Alpha prepares to ride. Tension is thick. Is that why you worry? Aveline asked softly. Vera's shoulders lifted, fell. I worry because your light scares dark hearts. Stay out of corridors. I will, Avaline promised, though her mind already mapped escape routes should danger breach her door. Back in her room, she forced down soup, then rummaged her satchel. The lunaria petals called. Instinct said they might shield her if trouble came. She crushed them with lavender, added a pinch of salt from her dinner tray. Old folk alchemy for warding. She packed the mixture into a small cloth pouch and tied it to her braid's end. The faint scent calmed nerves. Outside, hooves clattered. She opened the window a crack. Zayn in full armor rode past, black cloak snapping. His wolf brushed her mind, restless, eager for the hunt. For a breath he glanced up. Moonlight caught his eyes, bright, honey over ice. The bond vibrated like a harp string plucked too hard. Then he spurred forward, and the courtyard swallowed him. Night settled. Reese locked her door with an apology in his gaze. She bolted herself inside after he left. For hours she paced, wrote fragments of unsent letters, practiced silent breathing to still the bond's pulse. At midnight she dozed in a chair, waking to commotion. Voices, thuds, a muffled cry. She shot to her feet, heart pounding. The cloister corridor echoed with footfalls, multiple hurried. She pressed ear to the door. Female voices, hushed but sharp. Teacher, Alpha gone, no guard, witch. The blood drained from her face. She backed away, searching for weapon, barrier. The desk chair wouldn't hold long. She slid the bolt, praying wood and iron were enough. Fists pounded, a shout, "Open, healer!" She swallowed panic. Her wolf braced, hackles raised but mind clear. The lunaria pouch throbbed faint warmth at her braid's tip. "I'm under Alpha's orders," she called. "Leave." A laugh answered, icy eyes. "Alpha's not here." Something slammed against the door. Wood groaned. Hinges rattled beneath finality of steel. Again. Avaline's breath came sharp. She flicked eyes to the hearth poker. Could she use it? Hands shook. Third impact cracked the frame. Splinters spat. Light burst under her skin, responding to fear. She centered breath, summoned all the calm she used on screaming patience. The glow steadied, brightening. The door burst inward, 2 she-wolves spilling through. Icy eyes carried a short blade. Her friend brandished iron shackles. "Stay back," Avaline warned, voice trembling but strong. "Going to blind us with your pretty light?" the blade-bearer sneered. Avaline's wolf growled, soundless, vibrating her bones. She raised both glowing palms. "I won't fight unless you force me." The shackles clanked. Alpha belongs to the pack, not a cursed outsider. Their motives flickered. Jealousy, fear, twisted loyalty. Avaline swallowed pity. She stepped back until her hip met the table. The arcane scroll jutted from her pocket, forgotten earlier. She gripped it now like a wand. Blade Girl advanced. Look at her shaking. Light flared brighter, illuminating scroll symbols now shining through cloth. Heat surged up Avaline's arm, not burning but potent. Symbols burned in her sight. Pain and purpose collide. She felt the room tilt, energy funneling from bone to skin. Her wolf roared yes. She spoke, voice echoing with strange resonance. "Leave." Blade Girl froze mid-step, eyes wide. The other hissed but backed away. Light haloed Avaline's silhouette, not searing, but undeniable. Fear rippled across the intruders' faces. Icy eyes recovered first, slashing forward. At that instant, Reese barreled through the broken doorway, sword drawn. "Stand down," he barked. Blade Girl whirled, weapon catching Reese's steel with a clang. Sparks flew. The companion lunged at Avaline with shackles. Avaline raised glowing hands. Heat lashed outward. Not flame, but pressure, flinging the attacker back against a wall. She crumpled, stunned but breathing. Reese disarmed Icy Eyes with swift strikes, forcing her to knees. He bound both wolves' wrists, face carved with fury. "You'll answer to the beta," he growled. Avaline's glow ebbed. She wavered. Reese caught her elbow. "Easy." "I'm fine," she whispered, though her knees shook. The scroll cooled, its warmth sinking deep. Callan arrived minutes later, eyes blazing when he saw a splintered door. His voice cut like wind. "Get them to cells. Report to me at dawn." Reese hauled the captured wolves away. Callan studied Avaline, taking in the faint shimmer still hugging her skin. "They called you witch." His voice gentler now. "You saved them from worse punishment." "They would have hurt me." "Yes," he exhaled, glancing at the ruined hinge. "This room's no longer safe. Come." She followed through shadowed halls to a small chamber near Callan's own quarters. Modest, but solid oak door, sturdy lock. "You'll stay here until the Alpha returns." Avaline sagged onto the bed. "Zayn will be furious." "Let me handle him." Callan kneaded temples. "You've done nothing wrong." Her laugh sounded brittle. "Wrong? I disobeyed shown magic, knocked a wolf across a room. You defended yourself." He placed a dagger on the bedside table. "Last resort. Use pommel, not blade. Draw blood only if there is no other way." She traced the hilt. "Thank you." He hesitated. "Sleep if you can. Dawn's close." He left, door clicking. Alone, Avaline wrapped the scroll in cloth, hid it beneath mattress. She blew out lamp, lay listening to her pulse. The bond fluttered faintly. Zayn far away, yet tugging threads. Exhaustion dragged her under. Dreams surged. The forest, twin wolves circling. Tonight her wolf stood braver, meeting Zayn's giant shadow. They touched noses, exchange of breath that tasted of pine and sorrow. His wolf's eyes radiated bruised tenderness, a longing denied. She woke before first light. tears slipping quietly. Zayn returned late afternoon. Mud caked his boots, blood-stained gauntlets. Some rogues, not his. The moment he crossed the threshold, he felt it. Fear, anger, magic residue lingering in stones. The bond pulled tight, alarm vibrating through marrow. He shoved past sentries hunting the source. He found Callan in the war room lecturing Reese. "What happened?" Zayn barked. Callan dismissed Reese with a nod. "Attack on Avaline's room last night. 2 she-wolves. Reese intervened. No serious injuries." Rage ignited. "Names?" Callan supplied them. Zayn's wolf snarled. He turned toward cell block, but Callan blocked path. "You should see her first." Zayn glared. She disobeyed again? She defended herself. She glowed? Yes, and saved the attackers from broken bones. Light threw one across room, but no fatal harm. Callan's gaze sharpened. The fault lies with those who breached orders. Zayn's lungs burned. The idea of Avaline cornered blade bars away while he hunted rogues twisted something raw. He pushed past, reached the spare chamber door. Callan withdrew, posting outside. Zayn entered. Avaline sat at the small desk writing by afternoon glow. She rose, braided hair falling over shoulder. Their eyes locked. The bond roared alive, bringing sense of lunaria, fear, stubborn courage. Bruise shadowed her cheekbone, where the door splinter had nicked her. The sight sliced him. "Did he do that?" Zayn asked, voice low as thunder. "Your pack sisters," she answered. "It looks worse than it feels." He stepped closer, hand lifting before he caught himself. "Why didn't you call me through the bond?" "I tried," she said softly. "You were too far." Guilt burned like poison. He'd wanted distance, and she'd paid. His wolf pressed. Comfort, apologize, claim. He crushed the urge, fingers curling. "They disobeyed," he said. "Punishment will stand." She touched the bruise, light teased her skin. No permanent damage. Mercy might teach better than pain. His jaw clenched. "Rogues don't learn from mercy." "I'm not talking about rogues." Her voice shook but held. "Your pack isn't your enemy." He searched her face, fear, fatigue, shining defiance. Her strength unsettled him more than magic. He grabbed her wrist, felt light pulse, gentle this time, like a heartbeat echo. It soothed tired muscles, eased travel aches. Relief tempted weakness. He dropped her hand, stepped back. "You will remain under Callan's guard," he said. "I'll double sentries." "And my magic?" He met her gaze. "Use it if you must, but use it wisely." It was the closest he'd come to permission. She inhaled, shock softening features. He turned before gratitude could seep into the silence. At the door he paused, not looking back. "Your bruise. Leave it." His voice grated. "Let them see consequences of defiance. Not yours. Theirs." He walked out, ignoring the wolf's approval thrumming inside. Callan fell into step. "Cells?" Zayn growled. "Yes, Alpha." Evening bled into star-dark. Aveline stood by the window of her new room, palm glowing faintly around the lunaria pouch. Heartbeat calmer than it had been in days. Below, torchlight flickered, guards patrolling double rows. Somewhere in the keep, 2 she-wolves sat in cells. Justice or cruelty? She wasn't sure. She pressed fingers to the bruise. Warmth dulled ache but left dark coloration. Zayn's order echoed. Let them see. She let healing stop short of erasure. Moonlight skimmed the courtyard. For once, Zayn did not stand sentinel. Perhaps he slept, exhaustion heavier than pride. She imagined his wolf pacing dreams, until her light lulled him. The thought carved a strange, tender ache. The bond hummed quieter tonight, less a choke chain, more a thread. She whispered to it, unsure if he'd hear. I won't break. The thread thrummed back, like a promise or a warning. He doesn't have to break me to keep me, but I think he wants to. Aveline woke to brittle light and the scratch of angry whispers sliding under her door. Yesterday's events rushed back in jagged flashes, splintered wood, a knife glinting, Zayn's eyes when he learned what had happened in his absence. She swallowed the phantom taste of fear and eased upright, blanket pooling at her waist, bruised muscles protesting. Outside, Mistress Vera's voice cut along the corridor like a frayed whip. She is under the Alpha's protection, Daria. Step back. A second woman, Aveline recognized the bite in her tone as one of the she-wolves from training yards, hissed a reply. Protection is not the same as honor. I bled beside Zayn for 6 winters. Now a girl from Soft Field sits guarded while soldiers rot in cells. Soldiers who broke pack law, Vera snapped. Speak again and your tongue might find the same cell. Law bends around her glow. A chair scraped against stone. Aveline pictured Vera planting hands on hips the way she did when kitchen staff dawdled. You lost your challenge the moment you stepped through that door. Hate her if you wish, but hate quietly. Teeth that chatter start rumors, and rumors end in blood. Daria's voice softened, almost pleading. Vera, you buried a son to rogue fangs. If this healer's light is real, why save Garrick and not your boy? Ask her where her spark was when you wept alone. Silence spread thick and slow. Through the door's gap, Aveline caught Vera's ragged inhale. I asked the moon that question every night, the housekeeper said. The moon did not answer. That doesn't mean I carve out its light. Footsteps padded away. Daria's boots squeaked against rush mats, fading toward the west wing. Locks whispered as guards changed posts. Vera lingered a moment longer. Aveline heard a sleeve brush stone, as if the older woman rested her shoulder against the wall she'd just defended. When she spoke again, it was barely more than breath. We grieve out loud or we grieve in fury. Grieve wisely, child. A soft knock followed. I'm awake, Aveline called, tugging the thin blanket higher to hide nightdress wrinkles. Vera entered carrying a tray that steamed fragrant cinnamon and oat. She set it on the lone table, eyes swollen but dry. Eat before it chills. Thank you. Aveline reached for the mug but paused. I heard about your son. I'm sorry. Vera's shoulders stiffened, grief flashed like glass in her gaze. Sorry wastes nothing but time. Her voice, though brittle, lost its earlier venom. She poured tea into a clay cup and nudged it forward. Drink. Then wash. Callan will arrive. Aveline obeyed the command because it hurt less than resisting. Steam curled around her nose, sweetened by honey she hadn't tasted since leaving Willow Glen. She sipped, letting warmth coat her throat. Vera collected the candle stubs from Aveline's nightstand. Council meets soon, the Alpha will speak, some will listen, some will sharpen axes. That woman, Daria, she thinks Zayn showed me favor, he hasn't. Favor is envy's first excuse. Vera's tone held weary wisdom. Walk soft today. When the housekeeper left, Aveline scrubbed her face in the wash basin, wincing when water kissed the bruise beneath her eye. She closed her palm over the mark to comfort the throb. Faint warmth stirred, but she forced it down. Zayn's order echoed. Let them see consequences. The bruise stayed purple. Her wolf roused inside the hush, stretching like a restless cat. They hear your silence and think you weak. I'm tired of screaming in my head, she muttered. Then speak with calm. Steel doesn't shout. Cloth rustled outside. Callan's measured knock followed. Aveline pulled on a charcoal skirt and opened the door. He entered, pausing to scan every corner. A habit formed from years defending an Alpha who trusted few. He offered a tired smile. I promised breakfast, but Vera beat me. She scolds better than you? Aveline said, surprising herself with the tremor of humor. Everyone scolds better than me. Callan's smile dimmed. How are you? Alive, bruised. She tightened her shawl. Afraid the pack will turn me into a legend or a nightmare. Both, maybe. He passed her a folded parchment. Patrol reports. Rogues near the eastern ridge. Zayn is doubling watch. He fears last night was timed with their scouts. So I'm still useful as bait. Not bait. Callan's voice softened. Symbol. Symbols rally or divide. Zayn needs unity before snow. Avaline turned parchment between fingers. Unity built on fear cracks in the thaw. Then show them something else, he urged. How when he locks me away? Callan's shoulders sagged. I'll try speaking with him after council. She met his eyes. Would it have been easier if the blade hit me? He flinched. Don't ask me that. The wolf inside Avaline tipped its ears. He hides guilt. She chose kindness instead. Thank you for the dagger you left. I hope I never use it. Hope, he echoed, closing his hand over hers. But be ready. After Callan left, Avaline sat cross-legged on the cot and laced her fingers atop her knees. The quiet felt brittle, like glass ready to shatter at the wrong breath. She closed her eyes and reached inward. Are you there? She whispered to her wolf. Always. Images flickered behind her eyelids. Pine needles under moon. The massive black wolf pacing a clearing. Each step it took echoed in her chest. Her own wolf appeared, silvered fur bristling. The larger wolf turned, amber eyes flared in recognition, softened with something like apology before dimming. When Avaline opened her eyes, tears blurred the room. I think I'm starting to feel things I shouldn't, she confessed. Toward him. Toward the bond, her wolf corrected, not the man yet. The bond is a tide. You can't hate the ocean for pulling the moon. I shouldn't feel anything after how he treats me. Should and feel seldom share a bed. Her laugh cracked, half-sob. If I keep crying, will the hole keep glow? Perhaps. The wolf flicked its tail. Your power grows from what you bury. Cry if needed. Unbury. She drew up her nightdress sleeve, revealing a faint line across her forearm, the memory of falling into a thorn bush at age 10. She focused on the moment. Mother's worried hands, sting of salve, embarrassment of tears. The scar tingled. Light. Barely there. Ghosted under skin, knitting the memory closed. When it faded, the scar was gone. Avaline exhaled shakily. I'm changing. Change is truth wearing new clothes. And what if I can't control it? Then the bond controls you, choose. She hugged arms around herself, rocking gently. Control feels like another cage. Then shape, not control. Water chooses riverbeds, but still flows. Before she could respond, Vera's cane tapped outside. Council convenes. The housekeeper said through the door. Reese stands guard. He will escort you later to the infirmary, if called. I'm not allowed there. Directives shift with wind, Vera answered. Stay ready. Footsteps retreated. Avaline blew out a trembling breath and tucked the parchment with patrol routes under her mattress. She braided her hair tight, tying the lunaria pouch at the end, and slipped the dagger Callan gifted into her boot. Even steel felt soft compared to the storm building in her chest. She spent the next hour pacing. Time crawled in circles. Each pulse of the bond carried new notes. Zayn's irritation spiking, council room tension rising, like storm pressure. She pressed fingers to her temples, trying to block the noise, but the tether thrummed louder. A memory surfaced unbidden. Zayn's thumb at the corner of her mouth, the stunned wonder on his face before fear slammed the crack shut. Heat washed over her, equal parts longing and shame. The room spun. She sat quickly, breathing into cupped palms. Her wolf pressed against her ribs. Do not fear want. Fear what you'll become if you starve it. I don't want him, she whispered half-lie. You want peace from the ache. Peace wears many faces. The door latch rattled, Reese stiffer than usual. He stepped in, eyes avoiding hers. Council still debates. Beta Callan suggests you prepare for a possible demonstration. Demonstration of what? Your glow, Reese said, mouth twitching. Alpha hasn't agreed. Her stomach dropped. If he commands, I'll obey. But I can't promise control. Reese's gaze softened. Control is illusion, strategy, not leash. Pick what you heal, small wound first. Show them it responds to need, not whim. She blinked. The guard rarely spoke more than orders. Thank you. Be ready, he repeated, closing the door. His boots echoed down the hall like distant drums. Avaline rolled her shoulders, trying to ease tension. She tugged up the sleeve again, using the tip of the dagger to nick her forearm, just enough to sting. Blood welled. She focused on calm, on breath, on the memory of Zayn's steady heartbeat. Warmth bloomed, knitting skin closed with minimal shimmer. The cut vanished. Better. Not too bright. Contained. The bond fluttered, Zayn's heart kicking harder, a low growl of frustration leaking through the link. She flinched. What now? She whispered. Anger breezed back, laced with fear. Council conversation must have turned barbed. Her skin prickled with his tension. She set about cleaning her tiny room, folding linens, aligning the 3 river stones, reciting herb names, anything to keep her mind from drowning in pulses not her own. Mid-morning light shifted toward pale gold when Vera returned, cheeks flushed, apron dusted with flour. Council calls recess, she reported. Some demand proof of your loyalty. Others fear proof. She handed Avaline half a honey roll. Eat. Honey steadies nerves. Avaline tore a bite, sugar blooming on her tongue. Does Zayn want proof? Vera sighed. The alpha wants quiet. Proof seldom provides it. Aveline almost laughed, the sound brittle. Quiet left the keep when the bond snapped into place. Vera rested a hand on Avaline's shoulder. Quiet will return. Perhaps in new shape. She squeezed, then left without another word. Alone again, Avaline closed her eyes. She breathed through nose, out mouth, counting. 1. Heartbeat hers. 2. Heartbeat Zayn's, faint but insistent. 3. The rogue world outside waiting to chew at the walls. 4. The hush of potential inside her, bright and terrifying. Her wolf murmured, "The world grows teeth, show yours." She opened her eyes, set the half-roll aside, and waited for the knock that would pull her into whatever test fate decided next. Zayn gripped the back of the High Council chair hard enough to strain leather. 12 elders sat around the oval table, each sigil stitched in silver across charcoal cloaks. Smoke from a single brazier twined overhead, coiling with tension so thick it felt almost solid. Outside the vaulted windows, frost fogged the glass despite late autumn sun. "Let us speak plainly," said Gamma Aldrich, a broad-shouldered veteran scarred down one cheek. "Your healer mate destabilizes this pack. Loyal wolves rot in cells over a bruise, yet rogues close every week. Fear fractures ranks." Zayn's jaw ticked. Fear of discipline weeds out weakness. Beta Marin leaned forward, gray hair pulled into a severe knot. Discipline is trusted when applied evenly. The she-wolves thought they defended tradition. Tradition? Zayn barked a humorless laugh. Tradition never sanctioned blades at a Luna's throat. She was not yet declared Luna, Aldrich countered. Many doubt the goddess's choice. The statement rang like a challenge. Zayn's wolf lunged, snarling for blood. He pressed fingers to the table, forcing calm. "If doubt guides counsel," he said, voice steady, "name a single instance where questioning the moon served us better than obedience." Silence. Scrolls crackled in the hearth. Marin cleared her throat. "No one questions the goddess. We question influence. Reports say the healer's touch bends will. Warriors call it euphoria." Zayn's lip curled. "She seals wounds faster than salve. Relief follows pain. That is gratitude, not sorcery." A slender elder, Delta Silas, brushed invisible lint from his sleeve. "Then prove it. Let her bind her gift to pack oath. A rune seal on the wrist, so she cannot heal without council sanction." Zayn's nails bit leather. His wolf growled. "Mate must not be chained." Zayn forced a breath. "You would carve sigils in living flesh to soothe your nerves?" he asked. A safeguard, Silas insisted. If she's loyal, she won't object. Zayn slammed his palm flat. The brazier flame guttered. She bears my mark already. The bond is seal enough. Aldrich snorted. Bonds fail. Ask the widowers. Pain flickered behind Zayn's ribs at the memory of his first mate. The council smelled it, like wolves scenting blood. He straightened. Who doubts my ability to keep order? He asked quietly. No one answered, but Marin's gaze held wary steel. Zayn turned to Callan at his right. Bring the wolf pup. Callan nodded once and slipped through the doors. Zayn faced the table. This morning, a 6-week-old pup returned from border patrol, bitten by rogue rot. Our healers estimate an hour before infection reaches lungs. Silverroot slows decay, but cannot reverse it. Murmurs rippled. If my mate's power is deception, Zayn continued, you will witness a pup die. If not, you will witness life reclaimed. Then decide whether fear outweighs value. The elders exchanged uneasy looks. Silas folded arms but said nothing. Footsteps returned. Callan carried a small bundle of blankets quivering with faint whimpers. A healer named Tira followed, face taut, hands hovering uselessly. The pup's black fur had dulled to charcoal. A crimson-green bruise spread from its flank. Tira knelt at the table's edge. Fever rises, pup's lungs wheeze. Zayn inhaled, letting the bond guide him. It thrummed in the direction of Avaline's chamber, nervous but steady. He sent a mental command, brusque as a tug on a chain. Come. Across the keep, Avaline jerked upright, queasy jolt shooting through her solar plexus. The summons wrapped around her mind like a fist. Reese appeared in the doorway seconds later, eyes distant. The alpha calls. She smoothed her skirt, slipped the dagger to her belt, and followed. The corridors whispered. Rogues might have carved less treacherous paths. Each corner stank of judgment. Yet for once no one blocked her. Vera met her near the council doors, pressing a warm cloth into her hand. Honey cake. Eat or faint. Avaline nibbled, sugar-calming tremor. The doors parted. Inside, elders turned to her as one. She felt their scrutiny like hail. The pup whimpered. Her gaze snapped to the bundle. Infection's fetid odor struck like a slap. Rot, terror, failing lungs. Instinct overrode fear. She knelt beside Tira. Zayn stood behind the healer line, arms folded yet tension visible in broad shoulders. Their eyes met. The bond surged, warning, promise, command. Avaline's wolf whispered, small life first, not light show. She spoke softly. May I? Tira nodded, stepping aside. Avaline unwrapped the blankets. The tiny wolf pup shivered, mouth frothing weakly. Bite punctures oozed dark fluid. She pressed both hands near the wound, ignoring the council's hushed commentary. Focus, Callan murmured. Avaline inhaled memories of home, of safe hearths, of small warmth. She let grief surface, the bruise beneath her eye, Vera's lost child, Zayn's hidden sorrow. Pain stirred power. Golden light seeped from her palms, tracing fissures beneath the pup's skin. Elders gasped. Silas flinched. Heat built bright enough to blind. Avaline's heartbeat skittered. Control. She tried to ease flow, but magic rushed, drawn by the pup's desperate life thread. Windless air stirred, parchment fluttered. The brazier's flame roared higher. Sweat beaded her brow. The pup convulsed, then stilled, breathing steady, wound sealing into pale pink flesh. Infection odor dissipated, replaced by warm milk scent. Light kept pouring, burning her own veins. She swayed. Callan's hand shot out, but Zayn moved faster, catching her shoulders. Enough, he growled. At his touch, light cut off like a torch doused. The room plunged into ordinary lamplight. Avaline slumped, vision swimming. Zayn held her upright, heat spread where his hands gripped her arms. The elders stared, some awestruck, some horrified. The pup whimpered once, then yipped weakly, tail flicking. Tira scooped the bundle, tears streaking cheeks. Silas cleared his throat, voice hoarse. Impressive. Marin whispered a prayer. Aldrich simply stared as if re-evaluating battle strategy. Zayn tightened hold just enough for her to feel heartbeat sinking again. His wolf rumbled satisfaction. Protect. Claim. Fear nicked his human mind. It was there in the stiffness of his jaw. Aveline's knees folded, he lifted her easily and set her on a bench. She caught his sleeve, voice paper thin. I'm fine. You could have burned yourself hollow, he muttered. She managed a wry smile. Would save you trouble. His eyes flashed with something raw. He turned to the council. This is loyalty. His words sliced across objections forming. This is what you propose to bind like chattel. Silas's lip curled. Gifts that strong need reins, not ribbons. Zayn's gaze chilled. Reins invite rebellion. Marin shifted. Perhaps a compromise. Allow her freedom under watch. Let the pack see her healing with our blessing, not fear. Aldrich drummed fingers. Healing pups is one thing, healing warriors may turn their hearts from pain of discipline. Zayn almost laughed at the irony. Council feared mercy more than wounds. He looked to Avaline. She sat upright now, chin high, refusing to wilt. Pride stirred, foreign, unwelcome. Marin sighed. A trial period. She heals under beta supervision only. Any misuse, we revisit runes. Zayn nodded once. Trial accepted. Silas frowned but said nothing. Aldrich grunted. The matter settled with tension unresolved yet leashed. Council dismissed, elders shuffled away, murmuring plans. Tira hurried the pup to infirmary. Callan lingered near the door. Avaline rose slowly. Dizzy waves rippled but steadied under fiery determination. Zayn stepped close. Return to your chamber. Rest. I'm not fragile, she said, voice stronger than she felt. His gaze dropped to her trembling fingers. Your hands shake. A cost I choose to pay. You'll cost yourself everything if you burn uncontrolled. She stared at him, anger flickering. You'd rather I burn? She asked softly. Their wolves pressed close, hers pawing at the cage of her ribs, his prowling, restless. The bond pulsed hot between them, something between pain and relief. Aveline's wolf whispered, he worries. Zayn's wolf echoed faint, protect her. The man shook his head as if to throw off the thought. Callan cleared his throat, breaking the moment. Alpha, we need your ruling on cell rotations. Zayn stepped back. Escort her to her room, he ordered Callan, then strode away, cloak snapping like a severed tether. Avaline watched him go, chest tight. Callan guided her through quieter hallways. Guards saluted. Some eyes held new wonder, others wary suspicion. At her door he paused. Whatever they decide, he said. You showed them life today. She nodded. Life terrifies the dead of heart. He managed a small smile. Rest. The Alpha will summon you later. She entered her chamber, leaning against the closed door. Tremors chased her bones. She braced palms on knees until they eased. The pup's small heartbeat lingered in her mind. Fragile, yet fierce. She let the memory settle like embers. Her wolf yawned. We live another hour. She laughed, weak. Hour by hour, then. She crossed to the window, heart tugging toward the courtyard where once she'd seen Zayn bathed in moonlight. Afternoon sun now painted flagstones pale. He paced below, barking commands. She felt his agitation like sand under skin. You tell me to rest, she murmured to the glass. Yet you can't be still. The bond hummed. No words, only tension tightening, loosening in irregular pulses. She drew curtains, crawled onto the cot, and closed her eyes. Exhaustion dragged, but sleep hovered just out of reach. Zayn's heartbeat thumped behind her eyelids. She pressed both hands over her chest, feeling pulse under skin. Hers, his, mingled. In that twilight between waking and dream, her magic drifted, catching slivers of memory. Zayn as a boy sparring under a faded sun, laughter rare but bright. Vera's son staggering with a gut wound, a rogue's howl echoing across broken pine. She breathed with them, the stories, the pain. When the candle guttered, she slipped into restless sleep, unaware of the door opening quietly hours later, or the silhouette that watched her, broad shoulders slumped under invisible weight, before pulling the door shut with a softness that trembled like regret. Avaline jerked awake to the muted clang of a distant gate. Dusk pressed gray through the shutters, turning the room a murky violet. For a breath she didn't know where she was, only that the bond tugged, electric and restless, and the air tasted of approaching storm. Her heartbeat stumbled, searching for the echo it had grown attuned to. It found Zayn's at once, hard, uneven, too close. Someone stood at the foot of her cot. The figure blended with shadows until he exhaled, and moon-washed lamplight edged his outline in silver. She pushed upright, covers pooling at her waist. "Why are you here?" she whispered. Zayn didn't answer. His gaze roved over her face, lingering on the faded bruise. No guards waited at the door, no Callan, no Vera, just the two of them in a silence ripe with things unspoken. The wolf inside her stirred first, tail flicking with wary interest. His wolf brushed the bond, a low rumble of need and warning tangled together. Zayn inhaled as if scent alone could steady him. She saw the moment he decided to speak, his jaw flexed before words emerged. "I thought you might be dead." Her breath caught. "You saw me hours ago." He shook his head, restless. "I came by earlier. You didn't stir. You weren't breathing." He rubbed a hand down his face. "I almost dragged a healer in, but the sight of more hands on you." He cut himself off. Anger, sharp as citrus, pricked her tongue. "You've decided whether I live or die plenty of times." "I decide for the pack." "And I am not the pack?" Her voice rose. "I just saved their pup. I heal their warriors' ribs. I bleed every time your people strike me, but you still doubt my place." His eyes flashed. "Your place was chosen without my consent." "But you claimed it anyway." She pushed to her feet, wobbling only slightly. "You stand in my room, uninvited, rationalizing fear with authority." "You fear me," he said flatly. She answered without hesitation. "Not like before. I fear the parts of me you keep caging, the parts that glow." He stepped forward. She retreated until her calves hit the cot. "That glow bends hearts," he growled. "Eldrick says your light seduces loyalty. Loyalty is earned, not enchanted? Then prove it." His voice dropped to a taut hush. "Prove it now. Touch me. Make me feel nothing." Her pulse skipped. "I can't guarantee the outcome." "Exactly." He closed the distance in a single stride, so near she smelled rain-damp leather and cold iron. The lamplight behind him flared, casting both of their shadows huge against stone. Their wolves pressed at the barrier of skin and silence. She tilted her chin. "You want an excuse to chain me?" "I need an excuse," he rasped. "Because without one, I will take." His gaze dropped to her mouth, then to the hollow of her throat, where pulse fluttered. Avaline's wolf whispered, "He breaks because he cannot bind." She swallowed, fingers brushing the lunaria pouch at her braid's end. Light sparked in her palm, faint as a promise. Zayn's eyes followed the glow like prey follows flame. "Do it," he said, "burn me. Show them their alpha bends like a reed." "No." Her voice trembled but stayed level. "I won't use it to wound." "Then use it to calm." His hands lifted, not quite touching her arms, hovering close enough to feel heat. "I haven't slept since the ambush. My wolf claws walls. You have the power. Use it." A knot formed in her chest. "You'll hate me more." "Let me decide." Her own anger softened, replaced by a surge of empathy so fierce it hurt. She raised her glowing hand. He tensed as if expecting a strike. Instead, she laid her palm over his heart, the coarse weave of his tunic rough under her fingers. Light seeped into fabric, traveling flesh and bone. His breath punched out, harsh, then slowed. She felt it. His wolf settling, hackles smoothing beneath skin. The bond vibrated like a chord, tuned at last. Warmth flushed her veins, flooding with an ache sweeter than pain. Zayn's eyes half closed. A sound escaped. Half growl, half sigh. She should have pulled away then, but his hand rose, cupping her jaw with surprising gentleness, thumb tracing the line of her cheek where bruise shadowed. Soft, her wolf murmured. He leaned in, so close his breath fanned her mouth, but he didn't kiss her. His forehead pressed to hers. She felt the tremor in him, restraint strung to breaking. You're quiet, she whispered. I forgot how. His thumb brushed her lower lip and her light flickered brighter between them. You make me forget everything. She leaned into the touch, daring. Then remember something else. His shoulders stiffened, conflict entering his eyes like storm clouds swallowing dawn. He pulled back a fraction, gaze searching hers. You think you want this, he said hoarsely. You don't know where it leads. I know where cages lead, she answered, to rust and rot. It will ruin you. It already does, she said, and for once the truth cost nothing. Every day I feel pieces I can't name. If it's ruin, at least it's honest. His wolf surged desperate, and for a heartbeat it took control. His mouth brushed hers, soft, searing, a spark more than a kiss. She gasped. Light bursting, blinding gold around their joined mouths, chasing across his jaw. He groaned, deep and raw, then wrenched back as though bitten by fire. No. His voice cracked. Light snapped off. She staggered. He caught her shoulders, then shoved away so roughly she almost fell. What are you doing? She breathed. He paced, hands buried in his hair. This ends. He spat the words like poison. Your power is a leash. I refuse the collar. That was not magic, she said, voice shaking. That was the bond, you can't deny it. He spun, eyes glassy with rage and something almost like grief. I deny everything that takes choice from me. It wasn't my choice either. Then let me give it back. He stalked to the door, yanked it open. Guard Reese stood outside, startled. Escort her to the East Library, Zayn barked. She copies scrolls until dawn. No contact. No healing. Reese nodded, stepping aside for Aveline to exit. She stared at Zayn, throat tight. Punishment for feeling? Punishment for weakness. His jaw worked. You will not reach for me again. Silence yawned. She brushed past him, shoulders square, refusing to clutch the wound his words carved. Reese guided her down dim corridors lit by guttering torches. He said nothing, but his eyes flicked sympathetically to her rigid posture. They reached the East Library, a hollowed stone hall lined by ancient tomes. Dust motes drifted in torchlight. Avaline sat at a scarred desk. Reese stationed himself by the door. She opened a weather-cracked manuscript, words blurred. Her wolf lay silent, tail tucked, licking raw ache. Lamps hissed. Night stretched. Hours passed, measured by candle drips and quill scratches. She copied lists of past harvests until letters jumbled. At times she sensed Zayn, somewhere pacing, heart pounding. But she closed the link, fearing it would expose too much. When the candles burned low, Reese approached. Morning bell soon? Shall I escort you back? She shook her head. I'll stay, the scrolls are safer company. Her smile wobbled. He hesitated, then placed a small flask beside her hand. Mint tea. Keeps eyes open. Thank you. Reese left her alone with shadows. She unfurled the arcane scroll she'd hidden earlier. Symbols pulsed faint gold, echoing her heartbeat. She traced one spiral. Heat flared through fingers but gentle, controlled this time. Her wolf lifted its head, hopeful. Shape, not control, remember? She breathed, letting the glow travel no farther than her fingertip. The rune brightened, then dimmed. She tried again, picturing the pup surviving, Zayn's moment of quiet under her palm. This time the glow spiraled into the rune and stayed, a tiny candle flame dancing on parchment. Balanced, contained. A smile, real and small, curved her lips. She extinguished it, rolled the scroll, and tucked it beneath the ledger she copied. Footsteps sounded Callan. He stepped into the library, cloak dusted with frost. "Dawn approaches," he said softly. "You should rest." She shook her head. "I need words to drown the noise." He studied her tired eyes, then drew a folded blanket from under his arm. "At least warm yourself." He laid it over her shoulders. Aveline wrapped it around, surprised by the comfort. "Thank you, Callan." He poured more tea from a kettle, hand steady. "Alpha regrets his bark, but regret is not apology." "He doesn't owe me gentleness," she murmured. "Maybe not," Callan agreed, "but he owes you respect. He knows his wolf knows louder." She traced the edge of the ledger. "Wolves speak truths we hide." Callan almost smiled. "Then listen closely." He turned to leave, but paused. "He ordered a patrol at dawn. He rides out alone to scout. He does that when anger eats him." He looked back. "The road east is frost slick. If you feel the bond tug, know he may be near the falls." "Callan," he lifted a hand. I said nothing. Then he was gone. Avaline packed the ledger, scroll, and quill into a satchel. Reese returned. She asked for escort to her room. Along the corridors, she clutched the lunaria pouch, decision crystallizing like ice. Reese left her at her door. She waited until his footsteps faded, then slipped down a servant's stair into the courtyard before Dawn's first blush. Cold bit her cheeks as she headed east toward the stables. Stable hand Merrick drowsed on a stool. At the sight of her, he jolted. "Need a horse," and she whispered, "Urgent herbal errand for the Alpha." He eyed her, unsure. She produced Callan's patrol parchment. Merrick read, shrugged, and saddled a small gray mare. Aveline mounted, cloak tight around her. She dug heels. Hooves clattered through open gate. Frost glittered under pre-dawn stars. Pines loomed black. The bond tugged southeast, stronger with every furlong. Wind whipped her braid, pouch slapping shoulder. She crested a ridge. The sound of water thundered faintly. Raven Falls. There on a jut of rock, Zayn sat astride his midnight stallion, silhouette stark against lightning sky. She reined the mare at tree line, heart hammering. He hadn't heard her yet. She watched him dismount, pace to the cliff edge. His wolf surfaced. She felt it across distance, eyes of liquid gold glowing as he raised his face to the wind. Pain thrummed through the bond, raw and deep. She nudged the mare forward. Frost cracked under hooves. Zayn turned, hand flying to sword hilt. His eyes widened at sight of her. Anger flared, swift and bright. "What are you doing?" he barked over rushing falls. "Following instinct." She dismounted, boots crunching frost. "You're bleeding anger." "I bleed nothing." But the lie sagged. Their wolves emerged, hers stepping careful, his prowling wounded. She approached until breath mingled white between them. "Why deny help that costs you nothing?" she asked. "It costs me control," he rasped. "Your light unmans me." "Not light." She touched her chest. "Bond. We share pain. Let me carry some." He flinched as though the offer sliced him deeper than any blade. "If you break too, who patches us both?" "Together," she said simply. "Or together we shatter." He laughed, bitter. "Poisoned poetry." "Truth." She lifted her hand. Light shimmered but subdued, offering, not conquering. He stared. Slowly he removed his glove, exposing scarred knuckles. Her breath caught. He placed her palm atop his heart again. The glow seeped warm as sunrise. His shoulders sagged. He closed eyes. The pulse between them steadied into one beat. Wolves circled, touching noses. Minutes slipped. When he opened eyes, something soft flickered, and fear crashed back. He jerked away, breaking contact. "This ends here," he whispered fiercely. "I can't feel, can't need." Her voice wavered. "Choose another lie, Zayn, because that one unravels each time you touch me." He swallowed, fists shaking. "You break every wall." "I mend," she said, fingers trembling. "But only if you let me." He stared, battle warring behind his gaze. Then he turned, swung into saddle. "Return to the keep." His voice shattered on the frost air. He spurred the stallion past her, hooves sparking stone. She watched him disappear between pines, heart aching. The bond stretched thin, not snapping, humming like a wound that refused to close. Snow began to fall, small flakes swirling. She lifted a hand. One flake landed on her palm, melted into faint glow before fading. She mounted the mare, riding back, breath misting prayers the wind would never repeat. Inside the keep, dawn bells tolled, and torches dimmed against new light. In her chamber, she lit a candle, set the scroll beside it, and whispered, "He doesn't have to break me to keep me, but I think he wants to." The candle flame danced, reflecting golden in her eyes. Far below in the courtyard, Zayn stared at the same sky, head tilted, chest heaving, while his wolf howled silence neither dared put into words. Aveline felt the gate shutter closed behind her like a verdict. The clatter of iron echoed through the valley, reverberating in her bones long after the sound had faded. She kept her gaze forward, fists balled in the pockets of her cloak while two guards ushered her across the courtyard. The stone underfoot, slick with last night's frost, forced every step to be cautious. She preferred that. Slow steps meant slower thoughts, and slower thoughts meant the tide of shame and longing stayed knee-deep instead of cresting over her head. She caught sight of Callan near the barracks. He raised 2 fingers in greeting, but his brow creased. Concern, apology, helplessness, braided together. She managed a half nod before the guards turned her toward the tower, where she'd spent too many nights staring at ceilings. By the time they reached her door, her pulse hammered in her throat with more anger than fear. Inside waited Vera, hands clasped over her apron, eyes like weathered glass. No scolding, no barked orders, just sadness so palpable it stole heat from the room. "You're confined again," Vera said, voice a notch above whisper. Aveline shrugged out of her cloak. "For saving a life? For touching a wound that bled into places he cannot name." Vera moved to the hearth, feeding a log into embers until they flared. "He fears anything he cannot command with a word." "We all fear something," Aveline muttered, rubbing arms the fire hadn't warmed yet. Vera turned, resting knuckles on the mantel. "When I first served in this keep, I thought fear could be disciplined out of people. Clean floors, sharp schedules, enough rules. Fear bows, but it never bows." She tapped her chest. "It hides in the soft parts." Aveline frowned. "You speak as if you've stood where I stand." "I've stood close enough." Vera's mouth thinned. His father's reign was worse in its own way, no bond to temper him. The old alpha broke many things with silence before he ever raised a hand. Silence. It wasn't the threat Avaline had expected. "Cut me, shackle me, but do not ignore me." She shivered. "He doesn't destroy you all at once," Vera said, eyes distant. "He does it with quiet days where nothing changes and you forget how to hope." Heat pricked behind Avaline's eyes. "Why warn me?" "Maybe because no one warned me." Vera's voice cracked. She cleared her throat briskly. "A tub's been drawn. Eat the stew. Sleep if you can. Council will stir hornets at dawn." Aveline touched her hand. "Your son, was it rogues?" Vera stiffened, then nodded once. "Rogues, and the guilt of living when he didn't." She withdrew. Expression shuddered. "Rest now." She left, the door latch clicking soft as regret. Aveline exhaled. The chamber looked smaller than she remembered. Single cot, washstand, narrow table, one cold window. Yet it had been refuge, too. She loosened her braid, fingers brushing the linaria pouch still tied at the end. Petals crumbled under thumb pads, releasing a faint floral note. Hope trapped in cloth. Her wolf stirred, curling around her thoughts. Heart heavy. I miss quiet that doesn't hurt, she whispered. Quiet returns when truth sits beside it, the wolf replied. Until then, noise. She slipped out of boots and crossed to the tub. Steam fogged the air, laced with spruce oil. She sank into heat, sighing as bruises eased. Closing her eyes, she let yesterday replay. The pup's heartbeat slow, then surge under her palms, Zayn's hand lifting her from collapse, the pulse-yearning kiss that both of them half took, half feared. His mouth had tasted of winter apples and grief. Her heart still beat to that rhythm. Her wolf nuzzled memory. Bond tightens. Too tight. She sank deeper, water covering ears. Sound dulled. In the hush, she heard it. Zayn's heartbeat, faint, frantic, somewhere above the keep. Pacing, always pacing. She surfaced, lungs burning, wishing water could drown desire. After washing, she donned a soft shift, braided hair again, and forced spoonfuls of stew past a throat that wanted only sleep. Steam fogged the window. Dawn bled gray peach on the horizon. She tried resting on the cot, but her mind whirled. Counsel. Punishment. The impossible choice between light and cage. She pressed fingers to the bruise on her cheek. Veins of light flickered, wanting to heal. She refused. Some marks needed to be seen. Hours blurred. The guards outside shifted. Whispers traveled the hall. Council chambers below thrummed with argument she couldn't make out. But the bond delivered Zayn's emotions raw. Spikes of rage, troughs of shame, waves of protectiveness that crashed against walls of denial. She drifted in and out of a doze, dreaming of corridors flooded in moonlight, where wolves padded in silence. Zayn's wolf pressed nose to her palm. Her wolf licked his muzzle. They spoke no words, only breathed. She woke to the taste of salt tears. Evening rolled in, flattening light into amber stripes across the floorboards. Footsteps approached, measured, heavy. She stood before the door, knocked. It creaked open. No guard, just Zayn, pupils dilated, cloak lopsided as if shrugged on mid-flight. Come, he said, voice rough. She swallowed nerves. At midnight? Now. He held the door, knuckles white. The torchlit corridor painted hollows beneath his cheekbones, made the bruise on her face stark. She stepped out, following as he led down staircases that twisted like entrails. Guards watched, but didn't move. At a narrow passage she'd never seen, Zayn produced a key and unlatched a hidden door. They entered a hall paneled in dark cedar, scented with resinous warmth. A single chandelier glowed, casting soft, honey light. His private hall, she realized, walls hung with ancient swords and maps inked on vellum. Papers littered a massive oak table, reports, scouting charts, letters sealed with broken wax. He paced the length once, cloak swirling, then pivoted on heel. You haunt me, he said, voice raw. I did nothing. Exactly, and still. He pressed fisted hands to his temples. I smell your hair when I breathe pine. I taste you in water. My wolf howls for contact, my body burns when you dream. He met her gaze, desperation swimming beneath anger. What sorcery is that? She folded arms to steady herself. It's not sorcery, it's fate. I refuse fate. Then refuse breath, heartbeat, blood. She stepped closer, daring. Refuse yourself. He snarled, turning away. She saw tremor run his shoulders. His wolf paced inside him. She felt claws scrape bone. She moved to the table, brushing fingers over a map. You patrol every ridge, but you ignore the war inside your chest. He whipped around, eyes bright. You speak of wars? You invaded, wielding light stronger than steel. I never chose it, her voice cracked. But I choose what to do with it. I choose to heal. I choose to stay upright when hatred wants me small. His jaw flexed. He strode forward, grabbing her wrist. Show me choice, then. He slammed her palm over his own racing heart. The bond flared, heat spiraling through limbs, singing nerves. Her light rose, faint glow seeping between their joined skins. Feel that, she whispered. That's my choice. I could burn you, I only calm. His breath hitched. For a heartbeat, he leaned into the comfort, shoulders easing, eyes closing. Then panic flashed. He released her, staggering back. No, he rasped. I won't kneel to need. Hurt pulsed through her, but she held ground. Then stand with it. You fear ruin. I fear being caged. Where does that leave us? Zayn's wolf pushed, longing to bridge distance. He shook his head hard. Outside choice. Bound by a goddess who enjoys our suffering. He poured a measure of dark liquor into a tin cup, swallowed, wiping mouth with back of hand. You poison me, Avaline. She flinched. Because your heart beats? Because it forgets to stop. He uttered a low laugh, bitter as wormwood. I had mastered emptiness. Then you arrived with glowing palms and offered healing, not asked if I wanted to heal. Her eyes filled. Do you want to heal? Want is weakness. She reached him in 2 steps, grabbed his forearm. Then let me be your weakness. Light flickered. He watched it crawl up his sleeve, luminous threads weaving through scars. His free hand cupped the back of her neck. You have no idea what that costs. I know what cages cost, she shot back. I've been counting the hours. The slowburn tension snapped. He yanked her against him, mouth crushing hers. The kiss was rough, tasting of longing and rage. Her wolf surged forward, howling approval. She responded, fingers in his hair, pulling. Light flared gold, wrapping them in warmth. He groaned, breaking away, foreheads pressed. You burn, he whispered. Holy damn, you burn. Then let's burn together. Tears slid down her cheeks, shimmering where light touched. Or kill me now. He kissed each tear, breath trembling. Suddenly he shoved her aside, palm slamming the wall hard enough to rattle iron sconces. Leave. She staggered, lips bruised, heart aching. So you can drown in denial? Drown, burn, just go. She slapped him. The crack echoed, silence swallowing aftershock. His head snapped to the side. A drop of blood beaded where her ring scratched skin. She lowered her hand slowly, horror and pain mingling. Zayn! Get out, he whispered, voice splintered. She fled, skirts whispering, chest heaving like broken bellows. Guards didn't stop her. Back in her chamber, she collapsed against the door, sliding to the floor. Her wolf whimpered, licking the wound inside. She let herself sob soundlessly until fatigue dragged her into uneasy sleep. In dreams, wolves circled, his black shadow and her silver figure moving in widening arcs, never meeting the center. The moon watched, pale judge, while stars wept like sparks. She woke to dawn glow on the ceiling. Footsteps thudded outside, guards shifting, then whisper. Council convenes in a bell. Her heart lurched. She washed, braided hair, left bruise visible. When Vera brought bread, she refused, stomach a fist. Reese escorted her to the corridor outside council doors but ordered her to wait behind pillars. She listened as voices rose. The healer must be restrained. Exile. Rogues will sing if we lose her talent. Then a voice she knew. Marin. The Alpha is compromised. A chair clattered. Say that again. Zayn's voice thundered. Compromised, the elder repeated. She bends you. A heavy thud. Someone slammed against wall. Gasps. Avaline's stomach twisted. She peeked. Zayn held Silas by throat 6 inches off the ground. His wolf's eyes glowed gold. Call me compromised again, he hissed. Callan's voice cut through tension. Alpha, release him. Zayn's nostrils flared. He dropped Silas, who crumpled, wheezing. Zayn faced the council, shoulders heaving. She is my mate, he said, voice iron. Under my protection. Touch her and invite my claws. Shock rippled, Marin stammered. Alpha, you defy centuries. I defy nothing. He slammed fist on table. I obey the moon's decree. Avaline stepped into the doorway, pulse roaring. All heads turned. Zayn's eyes met hers, wild, blazing with possession and apology entwined. She felt the council's outrage, fear, curiosity wash over. She kept her spine straight, lips calm. Silas pointed a shaking finger. She bewitched. I healed your pup, she reminded softly. Bewitchment ends infection now. The room stilled. Zayn's wolf pushed satisfaction across the bond. He gestured. Go. She retreated. As doors slammed, council erupted again, their shouts muffled by thick oak. She pressed palms to cheeks. Light shimmered faintly, soothing, not frantic. In her chest, Bond pulsed warm. For the first time, his heartbeat felt like an ally. Hours later, Vera appeared with broth and a rare smile. The council may never agree, but they fear him. She set the tray down. And him? He fears losing you. That night, the summons came once more. Callan, silent, eyes tired. He's hurting, he said. Worse than before. Avaline's wolf lifted its head. Determined. She followed Callan alone to Zayn's quarters. Candlelight flickered under door cracks. She entered without knocking. Zayn sat slumped at the edge of the bed, shirtless, shoulders bandaged where falcon claws, or his own nails, had dug. Bottle empty on the floor. He looked up, eyes red-rimmed. I ruin everything, he rasped. She closed the door, leaned against it. Then ruin me. His laugh cracked on, you don't know what you ask. Show me. She crossed the room, knelt before him. Ruin drawn on fear can be redrawn. He cupped her face. I don't know how to want you without ruining you. Then stop choosing ruin. She rose, guiding his hands to her waist. Choose me. Their wolves surged, howling one name, yes. He stood, pulling her against him. Lips met, this time not angry, but desperate and tender. Light blossomed between them, brighter than ever, wrapping their forms in gold. Clothes fell away. Scars met healing skin. The bond, pulled taut for so long, snapped fully into place, sudden quiet in their skulls, like snowfall. Heartbeats synced, breaths mingled. He lifted her onto the bed, movements shaking with awe. They came together in a rush of gasps, hands, tears, equal parts devotion and hunger. Her light seared old wounds on his torso. His lips mapped constellations over her bruise until color faded. Their wolves lay side by side inside the bond, breathing as one entity. No words, just peace. After, he pressed forehead to hers, both slick with sweat and emotion. Outside, thunder rolled, but inside, silence wrapped them. Are you afraid? She whispered. Yes, he admitted, but the silence, it doesn't hurt. She smiled, brushing damp hair from his brow. Maybe this is what peace feels like. He kissed her knuckles. Stay? She hesitated, then nodded. For now. Hours before dawn, he woke, scribbled a note, and left. She woke alone, heart kicking but calm. She read the note. Come find me in the forest. She dressed, braiding hair loose, slipping scroll into pocket. Outside, Keep still slept. She found the forest path glowing with pale dawn. The air smelled of wet earth and hope. At a clearing she stopped. Zayn knelt in soil, planting small silver seeds, lunaria. He looked up, hair tousled, eyes soft. I thought they'd grow here, he said, where colors needed most. She knelt beside him, pressing fingers into earth. Flowers are stubborn. They root in spite of stone. His hands covered hers. I'm not asking you to stay caged. Stay free, but near. She studied scarred knuckles, healed by her glow, yet still bearing story. I don't know who I am here. Be whoever you are tomorrow. He brushed lips over her palm. No light this time, only warmth. Will you walk beside me while we find out? She didn't answer with words, she kissed him. Slow, sure, tasting forest and dawn, and all the futures they hadn't dared imagine. Wolves within sighed, tails entwined. He was never her destiny. He was her disaster. And she had finally learned how to survive it. A bell tolled somewhere deep in the keep, low and resonant, summoning those with rank to judgment. Avaline startled awake, pressed a hand to her pounding chest, and realized she had wept herself into a rigid, aching sleep on the floor. Fading lamplight painted the chamber in bruised gold. Dawn was gone. Morning had shifted into the cold clarity of early afternoon. Bootsteps scuffed outside her door. Reese's voice rumbled, giving orders she couldn't quite decipher. She rose, smoothed her shift, and splashed water on her face. The bruise under her eye glared from the mirror, still visible, still tender. The bond's glow had not erased Zayn's requested reminder. She left it, dabbed her cheeks dry, and braided her hair tight. Today demanded armor of another kind. Reese knocked. Council convenes in 10. I am to keep you here. To keep me safe or keep them calm, she asked, opening the door. He bore a sword and a sober expression. Both, he said. Orders from Callan, not the Alpha. She exhaled. That means Callan thinks I shouldn't be there, but Zayn didn't forbid it. Reese glanced down the corridor, weighing duty against empathy. At last he spoke low. If you go on your own feet. I was never here. With that, he stepped back, turned on his heel, and marched toward the stairwell, leaving the hall bizarrely empty. Avaline swayed with sudden choice. Her wolf prodded, "Know their words." She moved, quick, soft-footed, slipping around the corner and descending servant stairs until the carved oak doors of the council chamber loomed. 2 guards flanked the entry, but their focus rested inward, listening to the fury within. She pressed against a tapestry alcove, half hidden in shadows. The wood paneling vibrated with raised voices. Marin's clipped speech cut through first. It is not enough to lock her in a tower. The pack needs a concrete vow, control or expulsion. A different male voice, Delta Silas, followed, oily and calm. Exile her to Willowglen. She may heal farmers there. We need warriors. And insult the goddess openly? Another counselor scoffed. She is the moon's match for him. Boots thudded. Someone paced. Aldrich's gruff tone rumbled like rolling stones. The rogues at our border multiply while we haggle. The healer stays, but we bind her. A rune collar, she heals on command. A table slammed. Zayn's baritone thundered. This council would put a collar on the moon herself if it feared her shine. Alpha, you are compromised, Silas said. She bends you. Wood scraped, chair legs skidding. A gasp, then a choked cry. Avaline's blood chilled. Inside, chaos erupted. Furniture groaned. Parchment fluttered like startled birds. She pictured Zayn's wolf flooding his eyes, claws half-shifting. Callan's firm voice rose above the din. Alpha, put him down. A beat of silence stretched taut. Then Silas coughed violently. The room quieted to brittle hush. Zayn's voice hoarse. Speak again of compromise. I am Alpha because the moon decreed, and she decreed a healer at my side. Doubt me and doubt the moon. Silas rasped something unintelligible. Zayn snarled, a sound that made the guards at the door flinch. Avaline edged closer to the gap between the doors. Through the sliver she saw the chamber. Dark wood, flickering sconces, counselors half risen. Silas stood braced against the wall, throat mottled red where Zayn's grip had been. At the head of the table, Zayn's posture was coiled, hands trembling from restraint. His eyes glowed wolf-bright. I will make this plain, he said, voice like frost snapping branches. Avaline of Willowglen is my mate. My protection covers her stronger than stone. Bind her, and you challenge me. Harm her, and I will burn this keep to ash. Marin's quill slipped from her fingers, clattering on inkpot. Aldrich rubbed scarred knuckles over his jaw, calculating. No one moved. Zayn exhaled a slow growl. She is not your weapon, not your scapegoat. She stands where I place her, no more, no less. Callan cleared his throat, bridging tension. Let the matter rest. Winter preparations require focus. Aldrich muttered agreement. Marin gathered scattered parchment with shaking hands. Silas slumped into a chair, massaging his bruised neck. Zayn strode to the doorway. Avaline gasped, backing deeper behind the tapestry. He paused as if sniffing the air. The bond sparked. He felt her nearness. His pulse thundered through their link. Protect, worry, shame. But he turned away, barking orders to disband until the next moon. Counselors filed out other exits. Avaline waited until footsteps faded, then slipped down servant halls, mined a whirlpool of shock and heady warmth. He'd claimed her openly. No more cages, no more silence. He had set the keep aflame with one declaration. Back in her chamber, she braced the door and let tears fall. Relief, fear, impossible hope mixing. Her wolf pressed against ribs, humming. Pack knows. Bond breathes, she whispered. Does this change anything? The wolf licked her heart. All. And nothing. Evening rust painted the sky when Callan knocked and entered without ceremony. He looked drained, hair damp with sleet. The council stings, but they won't strike again. You're safe. He almost smiled. She sat at the table, fingers twisting Lunaria pouch. Safe is a shifting word. He dropped into the spare chair. Zayn's temper burned bridges, but fear cements them. They won't threaten you soon. He studied her. He'll want to see you after dusk meal. Her heart leapt, equal parts dread and anticipation. He'll call. I'll go. Callan set a small box on the table. Vera's gift. Quartz and sage. She says burn it when nightmares nip. Avaline opened the lid. Pale crystals nestled among dried leaves. Thank her. Callan stood. Rest until the summons. You'll need strength. He left, door closing gentle. She paced, mind replaying the council scene she'd spied. His voice, possessive, desperate, protective, still rang in her ears. She couldn't tell if it filled her with a thrill or a warning. Likely both. Hours passed. She bathed again, slow scrubbing to rinse nerves. She chose a clean linen dress, the color of cathedral ash, simple, elegant, unthreatening to skittish elders. Hair she left braided but loose at the ends. The bruise had faded to a soft lavender. She touched it, half hoping it remained visible. Evidence. The summons came with a single knock. Not a guard's. Zayn's voice. Raw. Avaline. She opened the door. He leaned heavily on the jamb, shirt open at the throat, hair damp as though he'd just doused his face in water. A bandage wrapped one forearm. Bruises shadowed his ribs beneath linen. Come. He whispered, a plea more than a command. She followed through hushed corridors. No guards. No Vera. Only the two of them and the bond humming like wires overhead. His quarters lanterns flickered low, amber pooling across floorboards. He closed the door and stood breathing hard, back to her. Zayn? She said, voice softer than she intended. He spoke without turning. Council fears you. Fears me with you. I promised fire if they touched you. Now I must decide if I meant it. Did you? He faced her, candlelight gilded hollows under his eyes. I did, he said. I do. He stepped forward, gaze sweeping her face. But protecting you isn't enough. Not if I might still break you myself. Her heart flinched. She touched her bruise. You left this to remind us both. Pain flickered behind his eyes. A mark of my cowardice. He reached, thumb brushing the fading purple. I would burn my own skin before I let another bruise you again. Her wolf hummed approval. She inhaled the pine and storm scent of him, reeling. Then why summon me? Because every breath without you tastes wrong. His hands trembled at his sides. Because I fear what I want will hollow you out. What do you want? Everything. He choked on the word, ashamed of its hunger. Your laugh, your light, your forgiveness. She stepped closer until heat radiated between them. Then take it. But understand, I'm not a cage to climb into and lock from the inside. His wolf urged, show her heart. Zayn closed eyes, fighting tears. Teach me. She cupped his jaw, turning his face. First lesson. Ruin isn't inevitable. It's a choice. He trembled. She kissed him gently, light flickering from her palms to his skin, soothing tension. He moaned, deep and raw. I don't deserve this. Deserve is a story we tell to feel safe. We're past stories. She unfastened the laces of his shirt, hands steady. He caught her wrists. If I fall, I take you with me. Not if we fall together, she said, then we land. He released her, stepping back, breath ragged. He poured 2 fingers of liquor, stared into the glass, then tossed the cup aside untasted. It shattered. Amber-soaked floorboards. No more numb, he murmured. She met his gaze. No more cages. Outside, wind whipped rain against shutters. Wolves in training yards howled at gathering storm. Zayn reached her again, sliding arms around her waist, pulling until her heartbeat thudded against his chest. She rested palms on his shoulders, light-warmed bruises on his ribs. Healing threads shimmered. He hissed, eyes fluttering. It doesn't hurt. It never hurts to heal, she whispered. Their wolves converged, voices blending in shared mind space, ours. Safe. Chosen. He pressed his forehead to hers, damp lashes brushing. They breathed each other. The kiss that followed was slow but potent, building like thunder. Her light slipped beneath his skin, his wolf curled around her heart, shielding. Garments fell to the floor, the quiet rustle of surrender. Candlelight painted skin gold. When he lifted her to the bed, he hesitated, searching her eyes for retreat. She cupped his neck, nodded. He entered her. A seamless slide of heat and homecoming. She gasped, pleasure coiling with something holy. The bond snapped tight, funneling energy between their hearts until breath and blood and light fused. Their wolves lay side by side, tails twined, eyes closed in perfect stillness. After, they lay tangled slick with sweat and tears. Storm rain drummed roof above. Zayn traced circles on her back, voice hoarse. The howl inside, quiet. She smiled into his chest. That's peace. He kissed her crown. It feels fragile. So do seedlings, she said, drowsy. They still grow. He murmured a vow, soft, fierce, before sleep claimed him. She remained awake, watching candle shadows dance across beams. For the first time, the keep felt less like a prison, more like stones waiting for roots. Dawn seeped pale through shutters. She woke to emptiness, space beside her still warm. Panic flickered, but she found a folded note on the pillow. Come find me in the forest. She dressed in the ash-gray dress, cloak over shoulders. In the courtyard, no one stopped her. She passed Vera by the kitchens. The older woman met her eyes, nodded once. Acknowledgement, maybe blessing. Avaline crossed training grounds, through Orchard Gate, following the tug of bond like silver thread. Birdsong rose as pines thinned. Ahead in mist-kissed clearing, Zayn knelt at freshly turned earth. Tiny silver seeds glimmered on his palm. He planted them gently, patting soil. She approached, heart tipping. He stood. They need moonlight, but dawn seemed kinder. She swallowed tears. Flowers are stubborn. They root where most think impossible. He brushed soil from hands, stepped close, expression unguarded. Stay free but near, he said quietly. As Luna, never prisoner. She searched his eyes, still flawed, still fierce, but vulnerable now. She could not promise easy days, but she could promise this moment. She kissed him, slow and certain, sealing a tomorrow shaped by choice. He was never her destiny. He was her disaster, and she had finally learned how to survive it. Snow arrived 3 days early. At first it drifted like stray feathers, too delicate to worry the stone ramparts. By sundown the flakes had thickened, swirling between turrets in frantic eddies that erased scent trails and muffled every footfall. In the courtyard, torches struggled to stay lit while wolves hauled extra firewood through knee-deep powder. The storm felt less like weather and more like an omen, something shifting inside the world, just as something had shifted inside Aveline and Zayn. They spent the daylight hours separately, he steering the keep through crisis, she tending the infirmary now reformed under Tira's grateful command. When dusk pinned the windows black, they found each other in the small library near the east wing hearth. There, between ledger stacks and frost-blurred panes, they shared warmth in simple things. The brush of knuckles while turning pages, a smile half hidden behind steam rising from mugs of spruce tea, the way Zayn's eyes softened whenever her wolf brushed him through the bond. Outside the council chamber, however, softness was a luxury they still paid for in suspicion. Silas limped from meeting to meeting wearing his bruised throat like a badge, whispering about an alpha bewitched. Aldrich kept his distance but sharpened questions like blades. Marin, more curious than afraid, trailed Avaline through the infirmary one morning, watching as tiny veins of light stitched a gash on a scout's calf. She said nothing until the wound closed and the scout walked away marveling. The elder's voice had carried only a trace of wonder. I thought your gift would burn wild. Instead it flows where you guide it. Aveline had dipped linen in warm water, steady despite exhaustion. A river floods when banks break, elder, not because water chooses chaos. Marin had nodded once and left, boots squeaking in the fresh snow. Zayn reported those conversations each night, sometimes tense, sometimes amused. For every rumor Silas spread, Vera countered with practical proof of Avaline's healing. For every complaint of distraction, Callan reminded Council how rogue incursions had dropped since the healer's presence rallied spirits. Still, tolerance was not acceptance. The pack watched Avaline the way villagers watched a caged firelight, useful for warmth, lethal if it shattered. The blizzard reached its fiercest on the 5th night. Guards huddled in towers, wondering if the outer wall would hold under snowdrifts climbing higher than a man's shoulders. At midnight, alarm horns erupted, long wavering notes that froze marrow. Rogues had breached the East Sally Port, slipping in under storm cover. 2 warriors fell before bells rang. More fought in drifts where blood melted patterns in the white. Zayn burst into Avaline's chamber the moment the first horn sounded, not bothering with protocol. She was already pulling boots on beneath her nightdress, quiver of tonic vials slung across her body. I go with you, she said, fastening cloak clasp before he spoke. Stay in the keep, he answered, but his protest sounded half-hearted, eyes darting to every bandage kit she packed. Your warriors will fight harder if wounds close before frost can claim limbs, she said. And don't bother with chains now, I'll melt them. A grin, savage and proud, cut across his features. Then stay near me. They sprinted down torchlit corridors where icicles arched like fangs from window edges, their footsteps muffled by snow seeping through cracks. Callan met them at the courtyard gate, silver axes gleaming. He thrust a spare dagger toward Avaline. Tira's inside triaging. We need the healer on the line, he said, then glanced at Zayn. Unless the Alpha disagrees. Zayn's reply was simple. Guard her flank or answer to me. They emerged into hurricane winds, capes whipping. Snow blinded, but rogue snarls sounded clear, shapes leaping over low walls, eyes lambent with hunger. The pack rallied in a semicircle, defending breach stones half torn out by desperate claws. Avaline's first patient was a young warrior gored across the thigh. She pressed her palm to torn flesh. Warm gold raced under skin, sealing vessels. The warrior gasped, staggered upright, saluted, and leaped back into fray. Word spread quickly. Find the healer. Earn new strength. Wolves funneled wounds to her like water to trough. Zayn ranged ahead, sword a black flash under storm lanterns. Every time she risked a glance, he was there, carving space, howling orders, eyes flicking to her position as if a thread tethered them tighter than snow could cut. Once a rogue barreled close, huge, matted with ice. It lunged at her, jaws wide. Callan intercepted, axes singing, but claws skimmed Avaline's shoulder, scoring cloth. Pain lanced. Her light ignited too bright, flinging the rogue back in a burst that hissed where it met snow. Wolves stared, awed. She steadied breath, damped the glow to steady shimmer. Fighting pushed toward the orchard. Branches sagged under snow, breaking with gunshot cracks. A group of rogues circled beneath the apple trees, driven by desperation. They snarled at shadows, until Zayn stepped into clearing. "Leave my land," he growled, voice carrying over wind. The largest rogue bristled, froth freezing on whiskers. "Midnight keep fades," it spat. "Soon we feast." Zayn's wolf rose, eyes molten gold. "Feast on this." In 3 strides he met the rogue, blades clashing. Steel rang, sparks flying. Snow churned red beneath them. Avaline, binding a gash on a beta's arm, felt each strike echo along the bond like hammer blows. Suddenly, Zayn slipped. The rogue lunged. She screamed his name, sprinting through drifts. The world slowed. Blizzard hush. Heartbeat thunder. Light surged through her bloodstream until skin glowed sun-bright. She flung herself between sword and alpha, palm raised. Gold flared outward, a concussive wave. The rogue's eyes widened as energy slammed it backward, sliding across ice until it hit an orchard trunk and slumped unconscious. Zayn stared, breath heaving, snow melting in steam off his hair. She reached him. Her light gentled, lacing across the shallow cut on his shoulder, sealing skin. He cupped her glowing hand, shaking. "I told you to stay behind," he rasped. "And miss saving stubborn alphas?" She tried to laugh, tears freezing on lashes. Callan's whistle signaled retreat of rogues. They scattered into the dark timberline, howling frustration. Pack warriors cheered, though exhaustion muffled it. Snow kept falling, but the danger passed. Back inside the keep, Avaline bandaged last wounds before dawn. Vera moved through infirmary offering broth, eyes shiny with pride. Marin arrived, coat dusted white, studying each healed soldier, lips moving in silent tally. Not once did she question Avaline's methods. Near sunrise, Zayn found Avaline washing blood from her arms in the basin. He wore a fresh shirt, hair damp again, but fatigue heavy in his stance. He waited until Tira handed Avaline a cup of willow bark tea and left. "You burned bright," he said quietly, "and it saved you." "It saved more than me." He stepped closer. "The council will see that now." "They saw last time," she murmured. "Seeing and believing differ." He touched her bath-warm wrist. "Let me worry tonight. You need rest." She leaned into him, cheek against his chest. "Only if you rest too." His arms wrapped around her. For a moment, battle noise, council murmurs, and winter's howl receded, replaced by simple breathing. They parted hours later. She reached her chamber to find a linen bundle on her bed, a gown of silver thread and midnight blue, simple yet elegant. A note in Vera's handwriting. "Pack feast tonight. Wear moonlight well." Evening came with clear skies at last. Lanterns adorned the great hall, warriors scrubbed blood from stones, laughter bursting in relief. Council elders filed in, subdued by fatigue and new respect. Zayn entered last, cloak black and unadorned. Conversations quieted. All eyes shifted to the archway where Avaline stepped through wearing the gift gown. Gasps rustled. She glowed without magic, just poise and quiet power. Zayn crossed the hall offering his arm. She placed her hand there. Murmurs rippled again. They walked together to the high table. Callan stood aside watching, a smile softening lines around his eyes. Aldrich lifted a tankard. "To victories hard won." Silas cleared his throat. gaze flicking between their joined hands. When he spoke, his voice held caution, not malice. "And to alliances new forged." He bowed head's width to Aveline. Zayn nodded satisfaction. Avaline returned the gesture, heart thudding. Midway through feast, musicians struck soft chords while wolves danced rough reels. Zayn leaned close. "Will you walk out after me?" "Outside? Beyond walls." She raised brow. "Snow still climbs your gates." "We have boots." He smiled. Small, unsure, beautiful. They slipped from hall, crossing courtyard bathed in torchlight. Guards opened gates to the orchard track, now moonlit and pristine. Their breath clouded as they trudged to the clearing where lunaria seeds slept under snow. Zayn knelt, brushing powder aside to show a tiny sprout, silver leaf breaking frozen crust. "Stubborn flower," he whispered. "Roots in impossible soil," she replied, kneeling opposite. She reached to touch leaf. Faint light shimmered where skin met green. Seedling straightened, defying winter. Zayn breathed out, eyes reflecting lunar glow. He dug bare fingers into snow-bit earth, planting a new seed. She covered it with soil, palms glowing warmth into frozen ground. Together they planted 3 more in silence broken only by heartbeats. Finally, he sat back on heels. "This is freedom." "Freedom is the soil we choose," she answered. He looked at her, emotion storming dark eyes into luminous peace. "Stay free, but near." She brushed snow from his hair. "Near." He kissed her, slow as dawn, sure as roots finding water. Wolves within hummed, satisfied. He was never her destiny, he was her disaster, and she had finally learned how to survive it.